Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Full Send Rejects. We have another special episode of the Full Send Rejects today as we welcome, as you might have just heard from a little breath there, Shanna.
Don't
the-
mess it up.
I'm terrible you hear me every week with four names. Just because there's a white person name doesn't mean it's going to be better, okay? As you hear her, she's the host of the Wellhouse Exorcism podcast, and she brings with her co-host PJ, who she brought despite her best wishes.
This is Puckwell PJ. He just comes along.
I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, hey, we welcome you guys. Absolutely. We're happy you guys are here.
Well, thank you for having us.
Oh, absolutely. You guys will be helping us dive into a mystery of a series of missing people on the history of Sharp Mountain in our local Schuylkill County of Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. But before we...
down the road.
Just down the road.
Yeah. Absolutely. Before we dive into that, we're going to be diving into our pre-topic banter as we kind of catch up our listeners up with what we've been up to. But before we do that and that, we want to give a special plug to our guest here, the Wellhouse Exorcism. If you're a listener to us, you hear, we do, especially Billy, cover the paranormal, hauntings and whatnot. And that is what these two specialize in, as well as their other podcasts that they pop in out and now and then with their dark stories. Games Overboard, where they review...
all the board games.
Yeah, they talk about board games and dark stories where someone might get a little upset.
A little bit.
It might be my favorite part of that podcast, to be honest.
I love it so much. Dan doesn't, but I do.
I know me and Billy are avid listeners. Rose, how much do you listen to them?
A little bit.
What a shithead.
Wow, bro,
I'm offended. This interview is over.
I really, honestly, to be fair, can't listen to much of anything with a screaming 1-year-old, almost 2-year-old in the back saying, la, 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 la,
listen, she hears me, comes home and talks about it, so I think that counts.
Yeah, well, I do listen to a lot of stuff. A lot of this, like, when she's napping, I can listen to things, but it's just really hard when like, la 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 or I turns into I think I shit myself or I need a snack.
Well, that's me also.
And yes, the constant screaming. Just the constant screaming.
They speak the same language whether or not you're a full-grown adult male or you're a infant child.
Hear that, Puckwell PJ?
What?
They listen the same too.
Yep.
If you two would like to do your plug right now, so everyone can hear what you guys are all about, go right ahead.
Sure. This is your ghost of a host with the most, Shanna, from the Wellhouse Exorcism, and my sidekick or my host, Puckwell PJ.
Hello.
We started our podcast a little over a year ago now because we wanted to tell our stories about our actual haunted house that had to have an exorcism. And so the funny joke that we tell is it was never meant to be a podcast. Initially, I had said, why don't we do some background stories about our house? Because we mention about them all the time in our Games Overboard show. And we also have a D&D side podcast as well. And so it's supposed to be like a little mini series. So even the first couple audios aren't even that good because it wasn't meant to be anything more than like a little side story. And now the Wellhouse Exorcism is like the biggest growing podcast that we have. So the irony there, I know. It's crazy. But so for the Wellhouse Exorcism, I focus mostly on Pennsylvania. I do a lot of research because I'm an English teacher by trade. And I also am a doctoral candidate for ethical leadership. So I really believe in doing a lot of research and having backing, which is why I sent you a picture of all my research for this week because it's a lot. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Anyway, but it's just a lot of fun. So we focus really on Pennsylvania, but we do like outsource to like New Jersey for the Jersey Devil episode. Mm-hmm. Whenever PJ's in charge, we go on a trip somewhere.
Yep.
Because you've taken us to California
we did Amityville Horror. We've done the Winchester Mansion.
Yep. So we've just around the United States, really.
Yeah, Robert the Doll.
Yeah, but mostly Pennsylvania. But Games Overboard is actually our baby. Wellhouse Exorcism is just a subsidiary of Games Overboard, and that's where PJ shines.
Yeah, so we review board games. We we interview game designers, and we just have a good time, just kind of bullshitting.
But we've interviewed Jamie Stegmaier, John
Yeah.
Garcia. Yeah, we've had some pretty big names. And PJ should toot his own horn for 2 seconds. He actually is an ambassador for Stonemaier Games and does a lot of stuff with Jamie Stegmaier. And it's not going to be you said a game tester now, right?
Most likely.
There you go. So it's growing. It's pretty cool. So we love it.
Yeah, congrats, man.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Good for you guys. I definitely like you guys, your podcasts and whatnot, your stories that you tell and everything. I guess you through my workday. Absolutely.
I'll take
Monday
care
morning.
of you tonight.
Yep, Monday mornings. I love it.
Well, so I usually go through because the first I listen to is I'm a big sports guy. Part of my take, they do a covers the football over the weekend. I'll listen to them and I'm like, all right, games overboard, and then Wellhouse.
Yep.
Nice.
That's
And I get sick of my podcast, so I'm like, come on, Spooked. When's the next episode? Come on, Spooked.
Spooked is good.
Come on,
yeah.
something scary.
like I definitely like to you guys says that too, because we started this, we're just like, well, let's just see what happens. And our first few episodes they were a disaster compared to what they are now. We were just seeing what clicked. There was no real work to anything. It took us like 5 or 6 steps to figure out anything we were doing. And now we're in like 8 or 9 countries. It's insane.
We still
Isn't it
do it.
fun?
Nice, yeah.
It is so much fun. There's not the pressure to do it, but it's just fun to do. And we educate ourselves in the topics that we choose, and we get to share these stories. And it's fun to see people from all over the world interact with us and say things that they want us to cover. And it's just like, wow, I thought I was dark. And
No, we found like there's 2. We found one. We did a piece on Bible John. It was a serial killer who was never caught in Scotland. And there was people from Scotland like commenting like, hey, we were there. We knew like parts of the story that aren't in the public.
Huh.
Oh, wow.
And
So you get
Billy-
people to comment.
We get Jackie.
we have 2
and
people.
Tim.
We have like 2 people. 3.
I'll give you all my tips.
now.
I'll give my tips off air later. But then Billy, he did a serial killer down deep south in he was split between Louisiana and Florida during our Halloween specials.
Roland.
Yeah, Roland. And there was somebody comment like, yeah, we were neighbors with this killer. And we're like, oh.
it was
Dang.
not the one that inspired Ghostface.
Yeah,
Pretty-
Ghostface.
Huh.
Yeah, it was pretty
Scary.
fucked.
Yeah. Wow.
And then you did some kind of like question or poll thing, and somebody was asking about us doing a podcast special on
Oh, yeah.
what inspired The Last of Us.
Yeah, about 5 or 6 months of this podcast, I finally figured, hey, let's ask the listeners what they want us to talk about. Took us long enough. And like, yeah, what
We're
about
getting there.
And Rose was like, is this the one from Last of Us? Like, yep. We're like, all right, we're
I knew
gonna
it
do
sounded
this.
familiar, but it's like the fungus that grows in like insects.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cordyceps, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, all
It's
right,
pretty
well,
wild.
we'll have to do more research, but it'd be fun to like cover something that the viewers and the listeners actually want to. They suggested, and it's like, oh, cool. They listen to us, and it gives.
Yeah, it's a nice little boost.
Yeah, it's kind of like, hey, this is not just just for the fun, but this is kind of entertaining as well.
Yeah, it's PJ's like favorite side stuff is science. He's a
Oh, yeah.
special ed teacher by trade, and so he spends a lot of time in the bio classroom, but he knows
Mhm.
all about that fun stuff. You learned me about cordyceps.
There's some weird
Alright, well-
parasites out there.
There are,
like
yeah.
There
there's one that eats a praying mantis from the inside out and
I
just
hate
wears
that.
the exoskeleton as a skin.
It's the creepiest thing.
it's
Oh, I
the
saw a
weirdest
video of
thing.
that.
See,
Yeah,
You put it
yeah.
in water and it climbs out. Whoa.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it makes me sick.
that's pretty messed up to me, considering female praying mantises kill the males after they get giggity.
So it's
Yeah.
the loving face of the insects.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, we covered Ed Gein too. That was a great time.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm going to
Little did you know that Ed Gein got the idea from praying mantises.
It
I'm
all makes
very
sense now.
the Texas chainsaw praying mantis.
There it
Inside
is.
the animal.
Oh my gosh.
Inside
Now
the
they-
animal.
Don't
This
bring
is
up that movie.
National Geographic.
I'm going to wear outsides on my outsides.
Anywho, is this the pre-topic banter? Because I'm loving
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we'll do this. This takes up a
Yeah.
good like 20, 30. Listen, this is mostly a loose structure of a podcast.
It's what happens when you get like 3 different forms of ADHD together.
Yeah. You have
Yeah.
Billy who comes in here after taking a dab or two.
4.
Depends on the week. And then
It's
me
been a
Pearl,
bad one.
levels of ADHD, and we usually take a few shots beforehand. So it we just see where it goes.
We're degenerates.
We really are.
We have trauma.
Yeah. We're here for a good time, not a long time. The fact that we have listeners just astounds me. I'll
On
see.
it every week.
I'll check once a week our little bar of listeners, and then whenever it goes up, I'm like, "Holy shit! How did this happen?"
Yeah, that's how I feel sometimes about some of ours.
Well, you guys are pretty.
I love this.
I appreciate your podcasts.
Yeah, like our Danger and Dice one gets like 7 downloads a week, and every
Well,
so often it'll go up to 8, and I'm like, whoa.
Who is
Well,
that?
there's some weeks where like 5 or 6. I'm like, well, okay. And other weeks there's like 30, 40. I'm like, holy shit, we're doing it.
We did something.
Wellhouse, I kind of gave up tracking that because it's
Yeah, that's right.
like that one took off.
It's awesome.
Who's the best? Look at me. Look at me.
Look, just because you
I
have
am
a
the captain.
broader range of audience here.
It's because I
Look at
bring the
us,
research to the
100,000.
table.
Ooh, I have OCD.
Oh, Lottie, no, look at the English teacher who can't spell her own email correctly.
Hey, you know that happens.
Well, according
forgot
to
the
you,
S.
your name correctly. It's Shannon. not
Yeah.
Shannon.
So hey, you can't spell, I can't pronounce. We all have our problems here. All right.
It shows we're human. That's okay.
Exactly. This is a whole 100% natural podcast.
Patrick.
It's our podcast.
Where are we?
We started. We didn't. finish. Speaking of being human, you
Got fucked up at a tournament.
Oh yeah, you did.
So we had
Professional athletes.
we're professional athletes. This was what, the first week of November?
Yeah.
It was after Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me, Billy, Rose is a spectator.
Spectator.
Yeah, you're a spectator potato.
And Liz. Don't leave Liz out.
Liz was the natural athlete for this. We were raising. We're in a tournament to raise funds for Hits for Haley tournament. Unfortunately, she's a young girl who's in a wheelchair, and they raised funds for her. And ironically enough, I destroyed my leg.
So explain how that happened.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. So I had 2 tears in my leg already. I had one when I played football in high school. It healed, kind of. And then another one that happened in the military, where the doctor was like, yeah, you're faking it. So I never got seen, really.
Nice.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
So
Schuylkill County.
that was just Cook County. That was just Louisiana. This time,
Oh, worse.
yeah, that was the military.
This is shittier scoop.
Military don't care. Louisiana is just Schuylkill County, just on like 10 more alcohols and a lot of drugs. It's a terrible area.
Yeah, we've heard. I don't want to go there.
But we
No,
do
don't.
appreciate all the listeners in Louisiana.
If you go to Louisiana,
And you talk shit on New Jersey all the time.
if you go to Louisiana, go as a group, and don't lose sight. Like, hold hands.
Yes.
But so
Canal
this,
Street in New York.
Yeah.
so this time I was playing shortstop in the tournament, my favorite position, and I went to go make a play, and unfortunately the grass was wet, and my leg went one way, and my body went the other way,
Oh no.
Oh.
and I instantly felt it, and I was on the ground, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is a tournament for a kid. Let me get up real quick and hobble on over.
Let me
And-
be a hero.
And go figure, that was my best offensive game. I had actually run that day.
Oh.
Right afterwards, I got a hit, got the first. And as soon as my foot hit first base, I felt a crack go down my leg. And I'm like, that's not good. So I'm going to go in tomorrow to the doctor to see what's going on here. But yeah, it was not fun.
And he's still under 30.
Hey, we won a game though. So you know what? It might have been a good.
Things you do for your art.
Oh, look at me under 30.
Yeah.
Don't
Listen,
mind us. We're 36 and sad. It's fine.
listen, every year in the military, I have about 3 to 5 years. All right. So I'm at least 40 right now.
That is
Uh,
true.
She's like, we're 36 and sad. I'm like, I'm 34 and still depressed.
Yeah, 33 is not looking good either.
The depression doesn't go away.
No.
It just compounds.
Just pat her on the back and say they're there.
Yeah.
Arguably, it gets worse.
You get older. Once you get 30, everything is garbage.
You know, the last time I was at the doctor, the protector looked at me. He's like, "You're over 30. Your body is over 30." He's like, "Do not listen to a single person that says once it's 30, it's worse. You're worse." You know, I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, my dad was in the Air Force as well, and he, did a lot of jumps out of helicopters and whatnot. So his knees were just wrecked.
Yeah.
So, like, I understand, like, the military just destroys your body.
Yeah, he was prescribed like a martini at night to help with the pain and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Like doctor said, like
Oh,
just get a little tipsy every night.
I got two things to say to that. First one, I jumped out of a plane once.
I know. I heard your story on your episode.
Okay, and I just continue on that. Okay. It makes me feel great.
Don't pull that crap on me.
Y'all were one of the 10 listeners last week. I appreciate it.
Actually, I have
You
a
gave
comment
the
for last
secret
week's
away.
episode because
What's
you yelled at Rose, and I want to stick up for her. All right.
Oh,
She asked a
shit.
very important question. She asked, they were interviewing veterans, PJ, and last week's
Okay.
yeah. And so she was asking about, PTSD and everything, and suicides because he was a Navy,
Mhm.
and the successful suicides were
brother-in-law.
happening. And so he said, that's the question you can't ask anymore because it got really depressing. And I'm like, but actually, it's a really good question to ask because people need to see this, like they need to understand what people go through. Because
I
my
agree.
father, God rest his soul, he also has passed away. And there's been a lot of suicide in my family. And my dad suffered PTSD. They would come up here every summertime for the 4th of July because I'm not sure if you guys been to Millville, but they do 4th of July correct up here.
Oh,
It's crazy.
2-hour long
Yeah.
parade.
Yeah, it's insane. My dad, he was Texas through and through. He was like, yeah, this is America right here, but at midnight they do the fireworks, and he was in bed, and he had a PTSD flash because the fireworks were going off, and he thought that he was under enemy fire. So he grabbed my stepmom and pinned him under her. He's like, stay down, we got to be safe. And of course, my stepmom's like, Bill, we're in Pennsylvania. It's 2011.
Let
Bill,
go.
we're in Pennsylvania. But those are things that you don't see, because you see the stuff that's glorified on TV. But my dad was special reconnaissance, and he was a master sergeant in the Air Force. So and he was in Desert Storm. Yeah, he was in the Gulf War. He was in Korea, which is no longer a war because we didn't win. But in any bad place that happened in the 80s and 90s, he was there, and he was special reconnaissance. So he saw horrible things, and he lost entire platoons. So I think it's an important question to ask, Rose. So I'm on your side.
If you actually want a real thing here, how me and Billy met is we both met at a party that someone had for 4th of July, and this was the first 4th of July when I got back from the military. It took a few fireworks to go off. I was on the ground. I was out, and Billy just sat there. It's the only time I remember him rubbing my back. Holy fuck, his PTSD is worse than mine.
Yeah, I don't like loud noises either. And yeah. Oof.
No, it was bad. I
Yeah.
was legitimately on the ground, I was shaking. It was bad. But Billy was just sitting this is terrible.
Yeah, and I think if people saw that side, they would be more understanding and more protective of our armed services, because I feel like there's people talking back and forth, we do or do not need a military, but you have to see what people go through to keep our country safe, So thank you for your services.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, she's
And Rose is
laughing.
correct.
So she's laughing right now. She's not being rude. It's just a thing, and I mean no disrespect when I say
Well, she
this.
listened to the episode. You
Oh, she
explained
did.
Yeah, she explained how you are with the thank you for your service. It's I did some things.
Well, it's my
Yeah.
theory. Back in the older days, you just said what he went through. A lot of them were drafted. A lot of them, especially World War II, they were drafted. They didn't have a choice. Us now, the younger generation's okay, we signed up. We not only did this, it was a job to us. Whatever.
I don't want to get a job. I'm going to sign up for the military.
Oh yeah.
Not that
No,
I'm
my
like-
my dad was peacetimes post Vietnam War. He chose to, but in my dad's side, everyone had fought in the war, and they'd all been in the military somewhere. because there's a whole side story that like I'm not Jewish, but my brother is, because there's a whole Jewish family, like our entire part of our lineage is all gone because they were killed in Auschwitz.
Oh,
And
shit.
so like that's a whole other thing. But because of that, like my grandfather, I'm not sure if he was in the Air Force, but they were all in some kind of military service to, go over and like protect. So my dad just felt the call to go because obviously it was a family thing.
Well, so is all your family from Pennsylvania? Let's say Pennsylvania. It is in history the third most veterans in the country. So that's what I'm asking. I'm just curious.
Wow.
Yeah. My mom's side, yes. But my dad, like they all came over from Lithuania.
Okay.
Actually right before World War II. But my great uncle did not come, and so him and his entire family, they all, well, apart from my great uncle, they all died in Auschwitz. But my uncle's armband is still on display in the Holocaust Museum in Abilene, Texas, where my dad was the curator of the Holocaust Museum, because he was the only survivor of the entire family. So
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
yeah. That's actually, if you listen to the Divic Box episode, I think we kind of discussed that a little bit.
Well,
I think a little bit because we talk about your brother being Jewish.
Yeah, we call him Jewish because he likes eating bacon.
let me
Hey, same.
after we're done recording here, I'll go back and listen to that.
And that's one of the earlier ones where I think we lose some audio at one point.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Your brother's mic just did not work.
You can still hear
at
him
all.
though.
Yeah, he's so loud.
The only ties I have to that, my on my stepdad's side, my great grandfather, he was on the 101st, the same unit you see in Banner Brothers.
Oh yeah.
If you remember Captain Winters, I met him through this. Great fucking guy.
Huh.
But he was originally a communications guy. But during the Battle of the Bulge, Hitler's last offensive, they needed people for whatever. He became a tank commander and drove from there to the Eagle's Nest into Germany and whatnot. Heard a lot of stories, but I remember hearing him tell me the one time they, discovered a concentration camp and it was just terrible.
Yeah, the horrors that they saw, it's crazy. But my dad, the museum that he was in charge of was actually the Hellcats Museum, because the Hellcats fought in every theater and they fought in every part of the war. So like it's cool to hear their history, but they were in charge of really like, liberating the camps. So the amount of like information, pictures, and like just artifacts they have, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Well, fun fact, I think it was Dwight D. Eisenhower. He said, take as many pictures as we can and document everything, because one day people are going to deny this is going to happen.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And that's the case that happened.
I have my degree, my PhD is in ethical leadership, but my entire degree is based off of what happened in World War II. Because the question afterward was, how could people let this happen? How did this happen? And so followership became one of the first, isms, the first ships we start discussing, and then we go into leadership afterward, but you can't be a leader without followers. And so that's the whole crux of my degree.
I remember reading like a study that they did, because they're like curious, like how the fuck did like all these people just go along with this massacre and just based on their religion, and others, the gypsies, the handicaps, people that off color,
dissenters.
Yeah. And they did a study, and they found out that like, if someone just finds out from a leadership role, hey, do this, odds are they just do it without a second thought. It's this mental psychology thing that it's mind blowing. Yeah,
it's mob mentality, safety in numbers.
Yeah, one of my first ever college history professors, she said, she just sat on her desk and she said, raise your hands. And sure enough, like immediately there are 5 students who immediately throw their hands up. And then slowly everyone like starts looking around and starts raising their hands up until everyone in the class is raising their hand. She's like, that's how the Nazi Party started. And it's like, oh, well, yeah.
That's a lesson.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
We took a left turn.
We did.
Yeah, a little bit.
I thought you said this podcast was fun. I'm sad and scared.
Sometimes that happens. That's part of the journey.
On
thank
today's
you.
episode
It
is
gets worse.
say it, not
It gets worse. Oh, Billy.
No, that's a common theme. Where it's like, it gets worse. Usually, it's one of my topics.
Well, mine's going to take a turn when I start discussing my research.
So
So,
we have 2 more pre-topic things that we will before we get there.
I'm saying it's going to take a turn too when I talk.
Oh, yeah.
I can't. I'm excited because I always get excited when someone else on here is like, it gets worse because it's not me bringing someone like this. The one episode, since we're speaking of World War II, I did Unit 731, which is from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to hear a fucked up story, go back and listen to that one. It is terrible.
I think our most
That
traumatic
got way worse.
was Albert Fish.
It's either Unit 731 or Albert Fish.
Yeah, Albert Fish was pretty gruesome, and it was terrible.
Which were 2 subjects that I picked, and now I feel like I need to go talk about unicorns.
You make me happy when we talk about unicorns. They sparkle and they're happy.
I need a shower.
Sparkles!
Have you seen Cabin in the Woods?
No.
I need a rainbow stat.
I need happiness. Someone give me chocolate.
Someone get me a puppy.
Oh, I'm sad now. Before we get to our main topic, though, Billy, your Ravens are on for tonight. I know you're going to be a little distracted. I'm sure you have them on the TV.
I don't know how you see in my apartment, but sure.
Because I know you.
Tell me
They're on
they're
Amazon Prime, and I know you. It's the Ravens.
Just tell me they're losing.
Yeah.
Last I saw, they're
Nope.
up 7-0.
Oh.
Don't worry, they're the second.
Mark Andrews is hurt though.
They're the second best team in the division, all right? Because Pittsburgh will be number 1.
I mean, the fact that they're beating the Bengals, it's just kind of it's a
Bengals
win.
are shit.
Yes, but if they're gonna win against somebody, I'd rather be.
The only thing Billy gets out of this,
Another
if they
shit
beat the
team.
Bengals, is he's going to message Shane either tonight or tomorrow and be like, fuck you.
Anthony. Anthony.
Are you a Bengals fan?
Anthony. It's time for a dark story.
Oh, no.
Oh no.
My heart skipped a beat.
My dad came back with a film.
This one is called Splish Splash.
Oh, shit. He came prepared. Okay. Splish splash.
Tim is sailing his boat when his watch falls overboard. He is a great diver. However, he does not manage to retrieve his watch.
So there's a question. Why?
That's it. That's all you get.
Okay, hold on. 'Cause
Why?
if you guys do this, I think along. And I almost got one correct. It was a doctor's office one.
Yes, that
Oh,
one.
the doctor one, yeah.
I knew that one right away.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
So
Repeat
Tim-
it, please.
Yeah.
Tim is sailing his boat when his watch falls overboard. He is a great diver. However, he does not manage to retrieve the watch.
Okay, so I know you guys have a lot of questions. Is he in an ocean?
No.
Well, okay.
Okay, so
Hmm.
we're thinking.
I don't know the answer, just so you know. I have no idea.
Because every time I hear these, there's like 5 or 6 questions that come off that narrows it down, and it always throws
Yep.
me. So it's not an ocean, which tells me that the answer includes what body of water. Is it a lake?
No.
Okay, I'll give a more broad answer. Do we know what type of body of water this is?
Yes. It's
Okay,
a specific.
I think that's the answer.
Is it? Does it involve the Dead Sea?
Yes.
He couldn't
I
find it.
don't know the
because
answer.
the Dead Sea makes you float.
Yes.
What?
There it is.
He looked this up.
I thought it was a
Congratulations.
Where is Dan?
No, I did not look this up because I was actually going to look one up to play on you guys. But I was like, no, because I don't know which one you guys did and didn't do. Because like I said before, I listened for about a month and a half now. I don't know how long it's been going on, but fuck yeah, I'm so happy with myself.
We'll let Dan know that he's just terrible at
Yeah,
them.
I'll do the same one this week with Dan, and we'll see how that goes.
I look forward to it. I will be sitting there at my computer at work waiting for that to publish.
So how are the Ravens doing?
They're winning. The top tight end is hurt though.
How about that Michael Orr lawsuit there?
Really?
Ooh,
Yeah.
I remember seeing. Yeah, it was like a couple months ago. He found out did not know anything about that movie or anything.
And he
like,
was never adopted by the Tuohys.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just for conservatorship.
Yeah.
Oh, just like the whole Britney
Britney
Spears thing.
Spears went- yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So the movie people, like when they had the lawyer there talking to Michael Orr in the movie, saying they're trying to take advantage of you, the lawyers were right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Plot
Yeah.
twist.
Irony.
Who would have known?
I loved that movie.
I know, right? You can't watch it anymore. Like Cinderella Man. Once you know the truth, just can't watch it.
Yeah, it's ruined.
Yeah.
It was such an uplifting movie. I was like, this is why you like have to be a positive like person, like adopt people and love children. Now I'm like, no, life is stupid.
Yep.
See, when you're 36, it just gets worse and worse. Depression just builds up.
I'm just right on the high that I got the dark story correct.
That was good. That was quick too.
Yeah. It's like Ray driving the car with Ray back from Eastern State Penitentiary. He just like he started to understand it. And he was like, bam, bam, got it.
Yeah.
Well, it probably because I like a lot of geography and history, so that's what saved me.
Yeah, that definitely helped.
I think he
I
looked
just
it
thought
all
it
up.
was in a river.
I was gonna say in a bathtub. He couldn't dive because of the bathtub.
That's what
He dove in and
That's how
broke his
technical
neck. or
it
And it
something.
went down like the drain, so he couldn't get it.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
that was my next guess. I'm like body, but when he said no ocean or lake, and when he said yes, it's a body of water, it's like okay, it has to be
Bathtub's
yeah.
off the
a
list.
geographical feature,
Yep.
and it's like wait, the dead what did I even fucking say? The Dead Sea.
Dead Sea.
I forget my own answer. The Dead Sea, because it's the Dead Sea in this the Great Salt Lake in Utah,
Mhm.
where you just kind of just float along.
I want to try that one time in my life.
It's
If you get a
actually-
chance,
Oh,
Yeah,
look
it's
up
very
the movie.
yeah, it's very cleansing.
If you get a chance, look up the movie. It's hard to find. Pirates of the Great Salt Lake.
Oh,
Anything with pirates, we enjoy
yeah,
here.
it's so good. It's so great.
tastes like salsa.
But we have one more pre-topic banter before we allow our co-host here take over. Thanksgiving traditions. Obviously, we had the turkey, we had the mashed taters.
Mm-hmm.
What else? I mean, for me, I always have a bottle of wild turkey that I open up.
Different kind of turkey.
Oh, I like that. Mix the turkeys.
Ew.
Well, not like mix.
Started when I was in
Oh.
the military. I think my second year in, I bought because I was down south. I was going to it was one of my supervisors actually, a sergeant I had. He was like, "Hey, calm, don't feel need to bring anything." And I'm like, "Well, I got to bring something, but I don't know how to make food." So here's this wild turkey, and it just every year since then, I just wherever I went, I brought a bottle of wild turkey.
Yeah, that
We don't talk about it.
We don't talk about it.
Well, if you two want filled in, because Billy knows the story. Was
oh boy, do I.
it?
I was pregnant with Alina.
Yeah, 2 Thanksgivings ago.
One we try to forget.
Yeah, I try to forget every year.
Boy.
This is starting off fine.
This is a dark story.
This is a very dark story especially for me. So I'll skip most of the details, but basically, sister-in-law father was up visiting.
Just his girlfriend just broke up.
So he was going into this bottle very hard. And when I say buy a bottle, I buy like the
The gallons.
the gallon.
It had
Mhm.
Because I like just in case anyone wants to partake, I'm curious. I just in case. This dude drank about half of it within an hour.
Oh, jeez.
I had maybe 2 shots, whatever. And he was going up and down the stairs. He relieved himself upstairs
in his
just
suitcase.
in his suitcase.
Oh my.
He rolled off the bed, didn't call 911, but in his hand
He
pressed
thought-
buttons.
He
Oh,
thought his
jeez.
He was gone.
his hand was a cell phone.
Well, at one point, coming through the one room into the kitchen, and right there are the stairs. And he sat there with no undergarments, and I saw the Squidward and tentacles.
he saw his wild turkey.
Mm,
And I got
the
very
Christmas miracle.
that was the night before Christmas.
Oh,
It was just Anthony walked by, and the worst part is that once it was known that he was sitting there with no pants on, he went back upstairs and came out. He came down.
He put a shirt on over it.
Oh, hey. Okay.
So he fed his legs through the shirt holes and came downstairs, and his balls was hanging out the neckline.
Oh.
Why
If
does
you-
every party you guys have end with someone naked?
If you want an image, just go look for those original SpongeBob episodes where Squidward is dried out. That's what it looked like.
Oh.
Or that what is it with John and
Knoxville.
John Knoxville, where he's like the grandpa and his ball hangs out
Yeah.
to the side.
Uncle Grandpa.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he came downstairs with the shirt on, and he's like, "All right, I need another shot," and just like acting like nonchalant, like his pants are on
Okay.
when his ass is hanging out, and he can't even hold the shirt up. And the worst part is that it was just he thought it was normal.
But one more, just to move on from this nightmare.
Yeah,
One-
we didn't even get to the gets worse part.
Yeah,
Then that is the worst part for me. That lives in my
the
head
fact
rent
that there
free.
was a house full of people, including Anthony's.
My sister who came up here from Virginia.
Oh, geez.
But before, just to move on from that, one tradition I did gain from the South though, mac and cheese at Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
that's a must.
Yeah. But I'll leave it up to you guys to talk about your traditions. I don't know what else y'all have.
Well, we go crazy, but like that all comes from PJ's mom, God rest her soul. If there was a holiday, we celebrated it. She just passed away in the springtime of this year. But Thanksgiving is always a turducken, which is ready to go. Yeah, we're ready to cook that puppy. Because the entire we all get together. It's like a huge family of like 10 plus people all at Laura's house. And we do mashed potatoes, corn, carrots, peas, stuffing, cranberry sauce, all the pies you can think of, including mincemeat pie, because PJ's father is British. So we have British traditions as well. So we'll actually do a Christmas pudding, which is the thing that's like, not pudding, and you light it on fire. That was
similar
cool.
to a fruitcake, and you pour some rum on it and light it on fire.
Yeah, the things that I've learned since being with PJ, like, oh, we're lighting on fire. That's cool. Look, fire in the house. Oh, the kids are playing with the fire. Wow, this is fun. This is fine.
And that's pudding.
Then you put it, then you pull it apart and you put it with heavy cream, and now it's pudding.
Yep.
British people are weird, but we have like eggnog and homemade. It's roly-poly eggnog. It's really good.
Mhm.
We do champagne cocktails, which is like the big thing that PJ's mom loved, and so like I have taken up making that. Like, so it's delicious, and then we just eat and eat and eat.
Yep.
And everyone brings at least 3 sides. So like it's just
so much.
it's insane.
Yeah.
But it's delicious. And then we all fall asleep, then we eat some more.
Don't forget the football.
No, we actually don't watch football at
Okay.
all.
I'm gonna delete that one part out of this episode.
Well, if you talk about that, PJ's dad will go, "Oh, you mean real football with the soccer ball, eh?" Because he's British. And then I'll talk about how he used to play rugby in his younger years, and rugby's a better thing than football
Yeah.
because
When I was in
football's
the
too babyish.
I had an officer who she immigrated here from England, and she talked about football and soccer. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. You're in America right now, and that's exactly what I said to her. We're cool. It wasn't like a disrespectful thing. Like we were cool with each other. She knew I wasn't being disrespectful. I was like, you shut the fuck up. This is America football.
That's what I do to PJ's dad all the time. Like, this is
11,
America.
11. We don't get a World Cup every 4 years to get us excited. We have a Super Bowl every year.
That's PJ's dad. He always makes fun of me. He's like, "You have a degree in your own language? Congratulations. I came from where it originated." He's my favorite.
American English is better than regular English.
That's what I tell him. He always tells me when
No,
I
it
say
makes no sense.
No
Well,
one
we say
poured
things
on
like-
me.
we say, "I'm going to go," right? Like, I'm going to go to the store. And he'll tell you, "Why are you saying going to go? That's superfluous. Just say, I'm going to the store." It's like, shut up, Dad.
Yep.
Because your
Superfluous.
ancestors were going to go back to England because we beat your ass.
Oh boy.
Bill, you got any Thanksgiving traditions or anything in there?
Mine depends if I'm cooking or not. This year I'm luckily not. Usually I'll do like a whole big thing for the turkey, and then Liz works on the sides. But the turkey is mostly my thing.
Yeah, I had no contributions to cooking.
No, I'm usually one doing everything.
I am there for entertainment purposes.
Um, I don't understand every year it's just I come from a very Italian background, so we cook enough to feed a whole entire neighborhood when there's only about 7 of us.
Yep.
Yep.
So we do a ham, we do the turkey, we have the sweet potatoes, we have the mashed potatoes, we have the mac and cheese, the stuffing, the roasted asparagus, the green bean.
Oh, we do that too. Yeah, I forgot about that.
You have to get your biscuits and your cranberries.
Yep.
And the whiskey.
And then you have your drinks. I always make an apple crisp and pumpkin pie. And it's just we have so much food and we're eating it until Christmas. And then we do the same thing for Christmas. We
I
pick out.
know. I love leftovers.
There's just something about leftovers. Certain things are so good.
Turkey sandwiches after.
All right,
Best
it's
food in the
much.
world.
I love to make once you're done eating your leftovers, like a turkey and like a turkey bacon chowder or like a ham soup. It's just one of those things that's getting cold and you just don't want to throw out the leftovers, but you need to do
Yep.
something with it. And it's just it changes up the palate. You can do more things with it. It's so much food.
So I just realized something. This is one of our longest pre-topic banters.
Oh, it's all right.
Yeah, we're getting a little diverted here.
So how about we, at this point, take it over to our guest here and her OCD and her co-host and talk about our main topic.
All right. Well, the Wellhouse Exorcism has brought it for you. You asked me to do a historical background into your area, kind of as like a precursor. Maybe that's the reason why people are disappearing along a very interesting line along a mountain range. So I need to paint you a picture with my words of what my week has been like, because I don't go anything like I'm gonna do it justice. Like that's just my rule of thumb.
Yeah, we
So-
appreciate.
So I printed out.
You do so much
just-
more than us.
I started to research, saw what she did, and I was like, oh my.
I just love the message I got. Hey, I did some research, but not as much as her, PJ.
Yep.
I found some websites. That's always him. I found some websites. So I
my
printed
go-to.
out a general Pennsylvania map with all the rivers. I printed out a topographical map with all the mountain ranges. I printed out all the counties, a map, and then I printed out a map of all the major cities. So I had all these like 5 different like Pennsylvania maps. And then I actually went through because there is a 1952 book of the entire history and all the Indian paths that exist through Pennsylvania. Because as we mentioned on my podcast, like when it comes to Pennsylvania, it was a major area for Native Americans, especially after the settlers initially came in with the Wampanoag tribes, because they all started being pushed into Pennsylvania. So I then go into that big book where this guy in the 50s like literally put in every single Native American path that existed in Pennsylvania. And then it's Tuesday in my classroom. I have all these maps everywhere and I'm trying to put all the stuff that I need on one map just so it all makes sense. So I can look at pretty colors. And it's my lunch break. I have a highlighter in my teeth. I'm mumbling to myself, well, where's the truffle hopping? And my gifted kids walk into my classroom over my lunch to do some podcast work. And they walk in, they go, Mrs. Hayden, you okay? Need some help? And I go, no, I don't need help. I need answers.
So let me get this straight. You took a break from your teacher's job to do research for a podcast.
All right. In my defense, I have 2 very nice sized tables in the back of my classroom for my gifted kids, and it makes a lot of space to put out for math work.
I appreciate that. And then these gifted kids came in like, hey, you want help? No, I got this.
Well, when they ask like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm doing this. And they go, that's pretty cool. Because they're used to me being weird. That's why I'm the gifted teacher. But so what I sent a picture to you of, and I'm holding in front of PJ right now, is my overall like compilation of everything. Before I even get into my background, I just want to explain that I have a map and I sent you the picture. You can post it anywhere you want to.
I have the map right here.
Yep. So I sent it to you over Facebook, but you can post it to any of your socials. So the orange line is what you sent me pretty much in a picture. Like, these are all the missing persons. And you guys live in like the Pottsville area. So what I have to tell you is actually kind of cool.
We
Okay.
do not live in the Pottsville area.
Where do you live?
Oh, we live in Pittston.
Oh no, you told me to look in the Pottsville area. That's right. Sorry. So
Yeah, I'm down the road.
yeah, the Pottsville area is actually like the middle of a bullseye. So nothing really has happened in Pottsville. Everything has happened in a like perfect circle around it, which is actually pretty crazy and weird. It reminded me of the Uinta Basin thing that we discussed in a lot of detail, PJ, on our Skinwalker Ranch crossover with Liminal Unlimited.
Yeah.
So Pottsville did have a couple of like small Native American skirmishes, and settlers were annihilated by Native Americans, but it was just a little couple things. Everything else happened around it. And so then when you look at the line that you sent me in that picture, that dissects right across pretty much the middle of this big circle. So yeah, so just off the bat, like that's pretty cool. But you said specifically look at Sharp Mountain. Sharp Mountain is a part of the anthracite uplands, or what we call the Ridge and Valley Appalachians here in Pennsylvania, because we have lots of mountain ranges that kind of dissect and go through parts of Pennsylvania. But specifically, it sits on the Blue Mountains. So again, it's part of the Appalachian Mountain Trail because the Appalachians kind of swing that way a little bit, but it's the Blue Mountains. On the opposite side, on the other side of Sharp Mountain, is actually where Hawk Mountain is. And Hawk Mountain is where the very first ever serial killer of America existed. Remember we did the episode on the Schombacher's Inn?
Yeah.
That's Hawk Mountain.
Oh.
Yeah, so you're just like, yeah, you're right. Across the mountain is where a guy like had a tavern and killed lots of people.
Right. Before you Billy, didn't you do a topic on one of the first serial killers in America?
Peddler's Grave?
Yeah, you did Peddler's Grave. He was one of the first.
He was the first murder in Schuylkill County.
Okay, that's what it is. First murder in Schuylkill County. That's right.
Yeah. Well, and the Schombacher and like the tavern, nobody can prove that he was the first serial killer because like it's all stories, but the stories are horrifying, including, remember, PJ?
And it's hard to ignore them and to deny that he did it.
Yeah, because there are stories of travelers who would just go there and then they would be gone. They would never show up again. And one guy asked to like be at the barn and sleep in the barn, and he heard like screams and stuff coming out of it. So it's pretty well known that this guy was a serial killer, but they can't prove it. So he's unofficially America's first serial killer. So that's just on the opposite side of the mountain. So that's just kind of a fun fact too. So not only do you have Sharp Mountain where people are disappearing, and you have a lot of Native American connections to Sharp Mountain itself, but you also have the Schombacher Inn where there was a humongous massacre. Just down south of you was and I have like the color yellow on the map, and around you is the Susquehannock where those Native Americans used to live. The Susquehannock no longer exist due to a mass genocide of their people by the settlers, which I'll talk about in a second. So I told you it's going to get worse with my story. Right above you is the Penns Creek massacre, which PJ is going to talk about. And then a little bit to your right is another massacre. So literally all around Pottsville are these major, massive massacres that happen to Native Americans. And then you have serial killers too. So you have all of this in a circle right around you, and that line dissects right across it, almost like the radius, right? Is that what it's called for math, the radius?
Diameter.
Diameter. Is that
radius is half.
Right. So it's like the diameter that crosses like right across. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, look at the map you sent me. I see, the brown line, the blue line, the red line going all right through Pottsville.
Yeah. And so the yellow color, again, that's all the Susquehannock. The blue is where the Lenni Lenape or the Delaware Indians were. So a lot of them cover most of your area. But the Susquehannock, of course, so the big blue line that goes up, that's the Susquehanna River. You also have the Schuylkill River, which is important. That goes right across that line. Right across the middle is the Susquehanna, or is the Schuylkill River for you guys. And those red dots are the Native American trails that go right into Pottsville. So that's actually what I want to talk about. So all the research that I did, again, in that picture, you can see that Pottsville becomes like in that area, like this end of a traveler station pretty much. So you are like the opening to like a big train station, I guess, if I were to compare it to anything. Okay. So starting off with that, then you see the red dots. There are two major Native American paths that go into your area. And one of them is the Perkiomen path, and the other one is the Tulpehocken path. And then the major ones that also go through there would be the Allegheny path. We know the Allegheny Mountains, right? And the Great Minquas path. So you have 4 major Indian paths that these Indians traversed. Now, the Perkiomen path was probably the easiest, but you also had the Valley of Paxtang that cuts through there. And I'm going to discuss the Paxton boys in a little bit, and you'll understand why that's important. But Benjamin Franklin actually followed that line because it goes right from Philadelphia up to you guys. So the Native Americans. Oh, sorry, what?
The Master of Lightning.
Yes. The amazing guy who thought turkey should be our national, bird,
Hey,
not
he,
the
had a,
bald
he
eagle.
was correct.
And potentially started the Jersey Devil.
Yep, that's right.
I won't let it go. I won't let it go.
All with a trolling match. I love it.
It's not real. I don't care what you people say. It's not a real thing. But anyway, the Great Minkwas path, though, that is where the Susquehannocks and the Conestogas Indians, they used that path the most. It was a very rocky path, and it was a big struggle. So people tended to get lost on that path, and they could get in a lot of pain and die. So, when you talk about these people who are missing, part of me wonders if they hit up one of the Indian trails that were more rocky, because you're talking it's along this mountain range. They could have fallen or gotten hurt. If you've been to, even in our area, we have Ricketts Glen, some of those paths are really unsafe.
Oh yeah.
Especially like in winter time, if it's icy or if it's even rainy with like a couple leaves, you can fall to your death. And so that could be, or if we're going to go into coincidence, like not, ghostly, that could be a reason, right?
Here's a running theory, though. See, for
Aliens.
some of the missing people, you can go for they fell on the paths, but one missing person was on the phone, and this is what's kind of freaky. He was on the phone, yelling that he needs help right now, going between a high school and elementary school, and then the phone disconnected, and he was just never heard from again.
I saw that tower
Yeah.
ping map.
It
Yeah, it
said
was
he
like
was
a tower map.
telling his girlfriend he was being chased by coyotes. I read that.
Yeah, but there's not really a signs of coyotes or anything.
Well, there was a white things spotting in Pennsylvania. I don't want to say anything, but I'm just like, it could be
the
white
white
things. Where the white things are.
Damn white people.
You jokingly brought up aliens. I did look it up, and just like this map, like surrounding the Pottsville area are like
UFO sightings.
many UFO sightings,
Mhm.
mostly of the cigar-shaped
Yep.
craft.
Huh.
Yeah.
See, I don't do the UFO checks. That's all PJ. I believe they exist, but
Well, we know they exist. We
Yeah.
just don't know if they're extraterrestrial or not.
Way better than thinking it was Bigfoot.
Bigfoot took them. They wanted to go to the cool Bigfoot park. Maybe they're happy somewhere else, okay? Bigfoot's just fluffy and loving.
You're part of my family now.
Exactly. Come join us.
One of us. One of us.
So again, if you have that map, you can look at it because I might reference back to it.
Oh, I'm looking
But-
at it right now.
yeah.
I started with Billy too.
Yeah. So like it's a good kind of like, viewpoint to have as we're talking about all of this. So then I did some research on Schuylkill County just in general. Now, some of this stuff you may already know, but I thought it'd be good for your listeners. So Schuylkill County is actually, the word Schuylkill comes from Dutch, which means hidden stream. And if you're not from Pennsylvania, you can't pronounce half of our words anyway, because they're all Native American words. As I always joke on our podcast,
Oh, yeah.
like just saying the word
Spell
Susquehanna. It spells, yeah.
SK wrong.
Good try. Try again later.
There's a Y in there?
How does SCH make a sk sound? I'm so confused.
Because it's the Dutch.
Let's not talk about Dushore though.
Oh no.
The shore?
The shore. But anyway, you guys have been around, that county's been around really since the beginning of the 1800s. And Pottsville itself was actually the county seat for a while. So Pottsville was a major area for Schuylkill County. Obviously, the Germans got there first, but as I mentioned, there was an issue when the first settlers went there. They were all killed off by Indian raids. And so the entire first group of settlers were gone. They were annihilated. And so there are discussions about all the scalpings that may have happened. Is there like kind of bad blood just in general in your area? In that area. So yeah, but that's like all of Pennsylvania because of all the massacres and the death that happened.
Go out
That's
your front door if you're gonna
Pennsylvania.
find that.
That's Pennsylvania. It's Maryland, New Jersey, all the original 13 colonies.
The
That's
colonies.
Yeah, all
yeah.
of it. Yeah. Especially as we started pushing more for Manifest Destiny, and we started pushing Native Americans out, there was more warfare, as we already know. And if you want to listen to the Winchester Mansion episode, like for your listeners, that's where PJ discusses us winning the West because of the Winchester rifle. So you
Yeah.
can see that
a
direct
lot of stuff
correlation.
you guys did with the mansion. You guys brought
Yep.
it up.
Yeah. But what's really cool about Pottsville is that is the unofficial location where anthracite coal was also found. So a lot of feet went through this area because once,
Region, baby.
yeah, once, and I hope it's pronounced Nico, Alan. You guys would know more than me, or is it Neko, Alan? I think it's pronounced Nico, Alan. But
Nico?
yeah, in any case,
I'm
there's
not
this.
even sure.
Yeah, but they say that in 1790, he discovered it kind of by accident. I have his story a little bit later, but he discovers anthracite coal. And from there, you have your big old coal boom and you have the Schuylkill River. So they built the canal and bam, you got like the ability to toss out lots and lots of coal, this amazing high burning coal to everywhere. And so you see a huge boom in just the infrastructure for the Pottsville and Schuylkill area, which of course is the death knell for all the Native Americans.
Out of my
Unfortunately.
curiosity, are you? I don't want to spoil anything. Are you going into the difference between anthracite and bituminous coal?
No, but if you'd like to go ahead, because
Okay.
I'm not from the coal area.
Yeah.
By the way, I love the Pioneer Tunnel.
Thank you. I grew up a block away from that.
Oh, it's so beautiful there. But anyway,
Oh,
take it
wow.
away. You tell us the difference.
It's not beautiful. But
Yeah,
anyway,
that's not great.
the key reason why this specific coal is so important. So there's two main types of coal: anthracite and bituminous. Bituminous is like everywhere. Anthracite, though, flows from just north where I'm at now in the Scranton region, down south, kind of below the Schuylkill County region. But as you said, it was first discovered kind of near Pottsville. It burns longer, it's cleaner, and it's just more efficient as a coal, but it's a whole lot more rarer.
Mm-hmm.
So when anyone ever discovered it, it was gold. It was, this is what we need. This is the better coal we need, but it's also super rare. So that's kind of why it was such a big deal.
Yeah, and for a long time, you guys made a heckin' lot of money off of it.
Yeah, until gasoline came along.
Well, yeah, that and just the unfair like mining. That's why you guys have the whole Molly Maguire's was the whole thing down in the Pottsville, Schuylkill area as well. That was all you guys.
Oh.
So, but like
Oh.
you're talking from 1900 on, you also started having strip mining because, yeah, as you mentioned, there were lots of coal strikes too because of just the unfair working environments. So, like 1902, then 1925 and 26, it just destroyed all the consumer confidence that existed for coal because of just the horrible working environment. And so yeah, alternative heating like fuel became a thing.
Yeah, well, to your point though, like back then, it wasn't like you get paid and you go do whatever. The mining companies, they owned everything. They paid you, but you had to buy from the stores. They owned the police. That's actually why Pennsylvania formed a state police was to crack down on these coal miner, or not coal miner, but the coal company, their police stations.
Yeah, what was called it was called a company town, the mining town, right? Because they'd pay you, but they knew they're getting all that money back.
It was
And the
basically indentured servitude.
Yeah, because there's a company store. There's a song called it's a coal mining song, The Company Store. I forget how it goes, but the line is like, "I owe my soul to the company store." Right?
Yeah, my stepdad.
Oh yeah,
That song, yeah.
The one I spoke to earlier in this episode, who is over in Germany fighting whatever. Shouldn't say whatever, that's inappropriate. But before that, he was a coal miner at the age of like 8, 9.
Yep.
And that's what caused him to pass away. Before he passed away, the doctor said he had a quarter of one lung actually working. He had black.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was sad.
And there was like nobody, like, and then these poor children, like, were being sent into the worst parts.
Yeah,
We discussed the Shepton Miracle, which was why you guys reached out to us. You're like, well, hey, that's the place on the road from us.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, look at the people, their lungs and what they had gone through too. It's just,
it's tragic.
That's why we had things like unions start to exist in the 1920s because of these unfair working environments. But because that happened and because there was that kind of collapse with all these major corporations that were, really unholy corporations, you guys started having strip mining out there. So the problem with that bootleg coal operation is you had all these small, like family-sized mines And so another like coincidental conversation that could have happened is not so much that they got lost on Indian paths, but they could have fallen down these makeshift shafts that you are barely visible from the ground because it was strip mining. It was like, families going out
Yeah.
there in the woods to find some anthracite coal. And that's something like
Which is
actually
my
on the
theory.
on the Pioneer Tunnel, they actually mentioned that because you don't see it from there. He's like, right there where that like little stick is, we have marked off one of these like small family operations, and you can walk in there and fall like to your death. So I'm not saying that it's that, because if that means that an entire line coincidentally of people falling down holes, which I don't know. Like I'm thinking aliens too. All right.
Well, that's one of
Or
the questions.
Bigfoot.
One of the questions I plan on asking these families that I'm going to bring on later is, did they take a look at these, especially with this new drone technology that we have now? Did anyone
Yeah.
fly a drone down there and just, take a peek, see if there's any, remains or bones or anything?
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't know.
Yeah, and they tried that for the Shepton Miracle. And, I think we have better technology than they did have then, but sometimes it can be hard to see. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still going with Bigfoot. It's a happy story then.
It's gonna go down like what's his name from The Incredibles? The bad guy syndrome, where he went down looking for Mr. Incredible, thought he was dead. And he had that drone flying around scanning. Got to get one of those.
We'll do
I
it.
don't know if we're that good yet.
Anyway, so if you're looking at just the blood on the hands of Pottsville, then just to kind of succinctly put the timeline together, in 1780 you have the first settlers massacred by the Native Americans. 1790 though, Nico finds anthracite coal. So from there you have this humongous boom and people coming in, this influx and egress of people taking coal and selling it, corporations coming in, and then you have the Molly Maguires, the secret miners union happening.
Damn
that
right.
struggle. Yeah. And so, of course, you have that famous Pottsville trial in 1877, and that resulted in 6 hangings and numerous prison sentences for them. So you have all of that kind of negative and dark past just in one town. And we're not talking even about the people who are murdering, possibly, allegedly, on the other side of the mountain. Allegedly. On the other side of the mountain. And then, of course, all the Native American massacres that are happening in and around that area as well. So that's just Schuylkill County itself. But then you also ask for a little background in Sharp Mountain. So I kind of just want to touch base in just all the area for our listeners who don't know what we're talking about, and then we can kind of dissect it a little bit more. But Sharp Mountain is a very specific mountain. It's a ridge that is in the Blue Mountains itself, in that entire chain. It's part of the entire ridgeline for the Ridge and Valley Appalachians, which is just a very small chunk that cuts through that Tamaqua area, because the Appalachian Mountains are actually to the left, and then we have a valley area, and then a little sliver, like a little pinky finger, comes up and hits you guys, and that is how we actually have anthracite coal. If it wasn't for that little pinky finger that just kind of shoots out of nowhere up to you guys underneath, anthracite coal wouldn't exist, and then it's gone again. So Sharp Mountain's a part of that anthracite region, which is kind of cool. Now, of course, it drains in Susquehanna, which I think is important because, again, we have all these connected rivers, and rivers supposed to be a conduit for spirits. It is heavily forested, so someone can easily get turned around, especially on those Native American paths, and it does have very steep slopes. So the possibility of falling from sheer cliffs is not unheard of, unfortunately. So that is kind of what I wanted to mention. Plus, there are a lot of strip mines, and there's a lot of runoff coming from those abandoned pits and pit mines. So there is a lot of surface runoff that's discharging into your creeks over there, and of course the Schuylkill River. So it's not, I don't want to say it's a mess. It's just that you have a lot of flowing of coal and just death. And like unfair, murderous death too for a lot of it, which can cause for a lot of negative energy and spirits who are just not happy, especially with the white man. And so if you look at the people who have gone missing, that could be another theory. Could it be some kind of angry spirit or spirits accidentally attacking the wrong kind of person because they're like, maybe they're like an intelligent haunt, and they don't understand that we're not in the 1700s anymore. Right. So that's my brief background before I get into the Native Americans and massacres. So any comments so far?
I'm honestly just kind of intrigued because, as I said before I went into this, I'm coming to this blind because I like learn along the way. I don't know. This is just interesting, you know, because I
Well,
didn't.
you like history, so
I love history, but growing up here, I never learned about the massacres that took place when
Oh yeah.
well,
us
we
white-
whitewash history. We really do.
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Hear about the
Certainly explains why
Susquehannock
everyone's
story
so
because it's
thin.
gonna get worse.
it's gonna get worse.
Oh no.
Well, I have a fresh drink here, so I'm ready.
Oh, you'll need it.
Oh, thank you.
So
Definitely
now,
explains the crankiness in Schuylkill County, though.
all the negative energy. That's right.
Mhm.
But that's also, we make a joke about it, but you look at these coal towns. We worked at Mount Carmel for years before we went on to our new jobs.
Oh, Mount
And you
Carmel.
see you can see that this once beautiful coal town, but that was a boom town, but now it's dead. And you're on a mountain. There's nothing there for you, so you see these children who are growing up and they're listening to stories from their grandparents and they're just so sad because they can tell their grandparents are depressed over what they've lost,
Yeah.
but there's nothing for them there and they want to get out in the worst way.
Relatable.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
absolutely.
And if you're living in that area, you understand it completely because there's nothing there for you. You're on a mountain, for crying out loud. Like you want to go down to the valley where there's like jobs and food and not terrible snow and bad roads. You want to be with humans and have good Wi-Fi. But like that just
You
that
got a
also
PennDOT truck?
But I think that also adds like that negative atmosphere because it just feeds in because when we talk about spirits, they feed off of negative energy. And it's no surprise to me then that there's a lot of exorcisms that happen in that area because we interviewed Paris Sabrina and she had a horrible case over in Mount Carmel and that ghost or whatever, that spirit, that shadow figure followed her actually. So when you talk about like the even demonic activity, they feed on that negative energy and they start suppressing you because of that negative energy you're putting into the world. And I don't mean to sound like, be positive and think unicorns, everything's happy, but there's something to be said about thinking about unicorns and being happy. Be the glass half full person for once in a while.
We got a ghost story for you guys.
Yes.
Ooh.
Can we do that as a side comment? Because I love ghost stories.
We can probably return the favor and do a whole episode for you guys at the Wellhouse for this one.
Oh, that'd be great.
I love it.
Oh yeah,
You know me.
It's a person. I grew up in a house that was haunted.
Yes.
Oh no, we're bringing the girl into this.
Yep, that one, the girl with the black hair. And
Yes.
Rose here, she experienced it when she came over, and Billy, when he moved in with me, he experienced it, and yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do that.
So we can
Yep.
return the favor. It's messed up.
There's definitely hot spots in that house.
There's blood involved.
See? There we go.
Ooh.
Sure is. First thing I noticed when we moved in.
Everyone's still alive, so it's okay. It seems
We're
everyone's
all
still alive.
so it's okay. Yeah.
Everything's fine now.
I'll shoot you a message, off after this, and we can talk.
Cool.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You can
No, it's great.
follow, it's fine.
It stayed there. That's her house now. That's her spot.
I want to knock on the door and ask the new people.
Yeah.
Have you
It
seen
is. I do have questions like that. Like, is it happening to you now? Like, because I think it just adds
Yeah.
validity to your story. But it can always, follow you wherever you go, or maybe it's done with whatever it's doing, and it's decided that it needs to go on.
Well, I'll just one quick snip to add to
Little taste.
little taste of the story. So before I had this conversation with Billy when he moved in and experienced things. So actually, I'll start with Billy. This one time I was not in the house, and he goes, "Hey, are you upstairs in your room?" I'm like, no. He's like, "I hear things being tossed." I'm like, "Oh, that's the ghost. Don't worry."
Everything's fine.
But this one time
Okay.
I was with my sister and my brother, and my sister was talking about this nightmare she used to have about this girl, and I'm like, "Yeah, the one with the black hair," and she thought I was messing with her. I'm like, "No, the one with black hair. It was long. She was, kind of 20s maybe." She screamed, and she's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Because that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ugh. Love it. Sorry.
Shared dreams. We had a couple of those too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun time.
Well, like when you tell Billy, you're like, it's just the ghost, don't worry about it. At some point, you just become so desensitized. You're like, yeah, whatever. When we opened up our bedroom door and saw our bedroom was just trashed, we're like, all right, anyone hungry? So thirsty? like
Where are
whatever.
y'all going? Come back.
Okay.
We're desensitized.
It's just a Tuesday. Someone has a case on the Mondays. Anywho. Anyway, all right. So then the Native Americans. I'm going on to my next folder now. So I did the background on Schuylkill County and Pottsville, that kind of stuff. In the areas of the circle around your diameter line of missing people, the Native Americans that were in that area were the Lenni Lenape, which we call the Delaware Indians, and the Susquehannock, as already mentioned. Now, the Lenape, of course, had different groups. So you were talking. I just call them all the Delaware, but there was the Unamis, there was the Turtle, and the Unalakchko, which is fun to say. Also just called the Turkey. So they're my favorite because
Thanksgiving,
America, the unofficial bird of America. But also the Minsky were there. And so the Mincy tribes, you have the Schuylkills, the Susquehannas, the Neshamines, the Conestogas, the Shackmansions. So all the names that we have for towns actually come mostly from the Mincy tribes, but we don't really ever mention the Mincies, which is upsetting because we kind of forget about them. We just mentioned Lenni Lenape, but because that was like a large overall group, and I was like, oh, the turtle, fun stuff, right? But anyway, you guys are named after one of the Mincy tribes, and you also may know big names like Shamokin, because they were one of the chiefs of the Lenni Lenape tribes. And there were major areas like Sunbury and Shamokin, for example, named after those chiefs. So
Shamokin I knew because their high school, their thing is the Indians, and
yeah.
That story was told beforehand.
Yeah. So he of course, they're named after the famous chief Shamokin, which is kind of cool. Now so we also have Shikellamy, which is another town, but also was another chief in the area. And so you also mentioned like the Shawnees, the Shawnees, they came from this area too. And they also were part of the Shikellamy and the Shamokin because the Iroquois Indians in Delaware, they all kind of started grouping together because settlers were coming in. They started making pacts. But before that, there was a lot of infighting because humans just can't be happy. It doesn't matter if you're Native Americans or, white or whatever. The Native Americans were fighting long before we even got here. And so even before we started settling Pennsylvania, there were so many tribal wars that, like, if I'm looking at a number here, the Susquehannas, just in general, during a period of 75 years, their clan became so reduced that they only had 300 warriors in 1675. So there was a lot of fighting happening on our land that we don't have any history on, because it predates, the white settlers. So could there have been a lot of skirmishes and massacres and whatever in Pottsville in that area? Oh yeah, absolutely. Can we prove it?
100%.
No. No, can't prove it. So you have a lot of that kind of blood there. But I found a really interesting quote right before the French and Indian War from Reverend David Brainerd about the Shamokin tribe, I should say. And so I just think you'll feel happy. This is about your area, Billy. He says he got to the area, and he described the village as containing, quote, upwards of 50 houses and nearly 300 persons. They are of 3 different tribes of Indians, speaking 3 languages wholly intelligible to each other. About 1/2 of its inhabitants are Delawares, the others called Senecas and Tutelas. The Indians of this place are accounted the most drunken, mischievous, and ruffian-like fellows of any in these parts, and Satan seems to have his seat in this town in eminent manner. So
That's so
That sounds right.
welcome to this day. Yes.
that's what you get, is a drunken, mischievous area, and Satan resides here.
That is Shamokin to this day.
I know, right? Oh boy.
That's why they burned down the Dunkin' Donuts.
Did you guys ever hear that thing? What was that? What episode was it on?
It was Free Beer and Hot Wings. They got a hold of
Tosh.
it, and they had a ball. It was almost a half hour of them just tearing into Shamokin.
Yeah. Oh,
This is where I meet my lawyer.
yeah. There it is. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
It was on Tosh.0.
Yeah, because Tosh played it
Yeah.
after. Yeah. And Nikki
Yeah.
cries. What's the next person's name?
Iced coffee.
Yeah,
Coffee. That iced coffee, cold coffee. Oh boy. I can't. I just can't. Anyway. So
Yeah.
The last big thing we had.
did the Dunkin' Donuts ever get rebuilt in Shamokin? Asking for a friend.
I think so.
yeah.
Oh, thank
yeah, it did.
goodness. Could you imagine
It
if it
reopened.
wasn't?
The whole town would riot.
Exactly. Again, but you're on a mountain. There's nowhere else to go. I totally understand. Like that is your hub of happiness right
They would
there.
start burning
You
all
got
the
Wendy's, you got
cars.
Dunkin' Donuts.
That's right. Hey, Wendy's makes good fries. I don't care who you are. Like, I love Wendy's. All right. So you have that background. But like I said, it's gonna get worse.
Fantastic.
Yeah, good.
All right. So again, there are, Native American skirmishes that we cannot justifiably say happened. But we have a lot of records once the white settlers came. One most notably would be the Susquehannocks. Again, on the map that I sent you, all the yellow right below the Appalachian Mountains chain, that's the entire Susquehannock region. Hence why the river is called the Susquehanna River, because the red dots that go along it, that was their main Indian path when they would do their movements. So while they may not have any towns along that path, there were like stopovers and sleepovers in those areas. Well, as the white settlers kind of moved into the area, they started giving up some of their land because they wanted to be nice neighbors.
Hey, so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're looking at the colors now.
Mhm.
So this is where the kind of dark history comes, but I want to paint a picture of how wonderful they used to be. And I say used to be specifically. So while our original number of the Susquehannocks are uncertain, the original population we believe was between 5,000 to 7,000 overall for the tribal and like the 5 tribal groups they had. Okay. Now by 1700 though, so when we have started moving in, they were down to 300.
Oh.
Now the reason was because of massacring of people. Now it's their fault too, because they were attacking colonists. So it's back and forth. All right. Yeah, we got a little
We're on
give
a
and take
fire.
there. Yeah, everyone's fighting
They
together.
started it.
He touched me first.
There you go. Yeah, that was going on. But so we're looking at the number of like 300 as being the number of when my story is going to take place. Now, a Susquehannock actually comes from the Algonquin language, which, again, if you're from the area, these terms pop up and they sound normal to you. But it actually means people of the muddy river, which is the Susquehanna. So it's always kind of looked not so great. It actually used to be more of a clear stream,
Oh yeah.
but the side parts, like the west and each branch, look different. But in any case, they did have lots of different names for the different confederations across Pennsylvania, but every single name has been lost to history because none of them exist anymore. They're all gone. Now, the French actually called them the Andasti from their Huron name, and the Swedes just kind of called them Delaware and Minqua because it meant stealthy and treacherous. Because again, they were attacking us. So again, the Mincy and the Minskwi tribes are the ones that we hear from the most, and they're the ones that I reference when I discuss Bigfoot because they have a lot of Bigfoot lore. So again, I'm not saying it's Bigfoot, but it's probably Bigfoot that's taking these people. I'm just saying,
I'm
putting it out there.
100% with Bigfoot.
There we go. See? But eventually there were 2 different types of Minquas. There was the white Minqua, which were the Susquehannock, and then there were the black Minqua, which lived over near Erie. So you see the yellow on the far other left-hand side by Pittsburgh. We're talking they were over there. Okay. Doesn't matter. They're all
Is
gone.
that why your map has yellow by Pittsburgh?
Yeah, all by itself.
Okay.
It was important for me. Okay, it was important. But anyway, by the 1700s, they ended up moving to a place they called Conestoga Town. So you've heard the word Conestoga wagon. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. And that is right below Pottsville area. So again, we're going down just a little bit. You guys are like, Pottsville is this target in the middle, like it's the bullseye of a circle. So down to its south, we have the Conestoga town. And that was their last village. They all moved there as a way to kind of make their own reservation to keep themselves safe from the colonists and to work with them. So they were like only one of the only tribes that were actually like, being nice finally. Even though like we were hurting them too. So again, like it's a give and take, as Billy said. They did it first, right? But this town was awesome. William Penn actually promised Conestoga town to them as long as they treated him fairly. And PJ know more about William Penn and his interaction with the Native Americans. What was their relationship like?
William Penn, I don't know much of. I know John Eves, the
That's what I
founder
mean.
of
Yeah.
our
So
town.
yeah. So John. Yeah. Go ahead.
But he was in our town. He was beloved of the Native Americans to the point where when the massacre, the Wyoming Valley massacre, happened where we live, they came to warn him what was coming, and he was able to get his family out. And no one
died.
of the Eves family
Yeah.
passed away during that massacre when pretty much the rest of the town was burned.
Yeah. So so when it came to the Quakers, initially they had a really good relationship because, of course, William Penn creates Pennsylvania. But he really did.
Really?
And there's a quote. Yeah. So, well, he was fine, but then there were bad people after his family, But anyway, I did want to quote here from Explore PA History just because it's on the historical marker, and I think it's just important. It says in 1700, William Penn promised the Conestoga Indians that they would be treated fairly and equally in his colony, and that he and his heirs would, quote, always show themselves to be true friends and brothers to them. That didn't happen. He was a true friend, but his sons were not. So that's where all of this kind of goes down. But it says here, the Conestoga, of course, took William Penn at his word. And for years, they really did work together. Their town, the Conestoga town, it served as a really great center for trade and diplomacy. And the Susquehannock were actually known for being great fur traders. And so they used the Susquehanna River to bring up furs and whatnot. So it became a big, again, industrial hub before all the coal boom. And of course, their population had started to grow in there for a little while. Now, when we started not liking them, everything started to decline. But everything ends for them abruptly in December of 1763. Because like I said, it gets worse. And this is part of the history that we never learn. I didn't know this until I started researching for you guys. This is something that I learned that I had no idea about.
This is why we do what we do.
Yeah, it's actually really depressing.
Wait.
So
It usually is.
yeah, if you want the whole story, all you have to do is go on to Uncharted Lancaster, and it's actually called Lancaster's Darkest Chapter: The Massacre of the Conestoga.
Great start.
Yeah, obviously. And so I really do like the opening because it sounds happy. When the English first entered Pennsylvania, messengers from the Conestoga Indians met them, bidding them welcome and bringing gifts of corn, venison, and skins. The whole tribe entered into a treaty of friendship with William Penn, which was to last, quote, as long as the sun should shine or the waters run into the rivers. Little did they know.
I just love how you start with, this is sort of a massacre, but the start is so happy.
The opening is just beautiful. And then it goes to little did they know.
The Mickey himself had a better picture.
Yeah. The sun would stop shining for them only 62 years later. That's literally the next line of this. But in 1664, of course, we have them creating their town. So I want to flash forward then to what actually happens in 1763. So in 1763, their numbers have dwindled now from 300 to 20. Reason why is a lot of disease. As people may know, there was no genetic history in Native Americans for smallpox. And so if smallpox invaded into their tribal area, everyone got it, and it was almost a 100% death rate. And so biological warfare started here in America, I like to say, because we learned that if we gave smallpox-infested blankets to Native Americans, somehow they died. We didn't understand how.
USA.
We didn't understand the science, but we're like, this works. And so we started trading with these blankets just to kill them.
Who needs to know science? Let's just send it.
This is so happy. Yeah. So the reason why things started kind of falling apart is Penn's sons, they assumed the proprietorship of the colony of Pennsylvania after William Penn's death in 1718. And that's when they started exploiting their region to enhance their own wealth. And so, you hear about the walking purchase and the Treaty of Easton, all those things. So the Conestoga land was whittled down from 3,000 acres to 400 acres, which is why, things just start going from worse to worse for them. So we're down to only 20 Susquehannock. Now, part of the reason why is they actually started abandoning their customs. So during William Penn's time, during that 62 years before they are all gone, they actually started adopting customs of the white people, and which would have been only the Mennonites and the Quakers. So again, they were peace-loving people. So of course they fit in. Like they got rid of their Native American clothing. They started building cabins using wood. They were using guns and they're cooking in pots. Like everything had changed. So they started becoming part of the society. And so part of the reason why it's down to 20 is because there's probably like 20 purebred Susquehannocks left. But alas, in December of 1763, the community of Paxton, which is just north of like Harrisburg nowadays, they hated the Native Americans. One of the reasons is in 1757, the Indians had raided Paxton and killed lots of people there and burned their homes.
Oh,
So,
holy crap.
yeah,
Others.
yeah, pretty big grudge, yeah. So 6 years later, they decide they are going to get revenge. So in August of that year, they tried, but they were unsuccessful. They rode north to the Susquehanna's West Branch, and they attempted to follow the enemy home, but they were surprised when the Indians surprised them and killed them. Because they're better hunters and they're better hiders. But so
They had their Uno reverse cards.
they
ready.
did. Reverse.
Reverse.
Peekaboo.
Yeah, so they killed 4 and wounded 6. So 10 people either died or were wounded in that. And so they tried again in October, and then no. So then finally, December, they go to Conestoga Indian Town. They head in there and they raid. It's daybreak, December 14th, and 50 Paxton boys, as they're called, they just ride in like guns blazing, attacking. They dismount their horses and they start firing everywhere at all the Indian huts, you name it. They're just shooting at everything. So there's only like 4 people there. So they did scalp everyone they saw. So like we have white settlers scalping Native Americans. They did loot the entire village. They burned everything to the ground. The raid only took like a couple minutes because there was like no one there. So again, I said little to know that 13 of the Conestogans had actually traveled miles away because they were selling their wares at a different town. So they didn't realize they didn't kill them all. And so those 13 who had survived accidentally, they ran to a nearby Mennonite farm for protection. So then they decided to do a second attack. We didn't get them all the first time. Let's go get them again. Or I'd like to say, want to see me do it again?
Second round.
Second round, yeah.
There's 13 left. We gotta get them.
Bad number. Jesus is watching.
Manifest destiny.
Right, yeah. This is for people who burned our house down 6 years ago. It wasn't you, but I'm gonna get you anyway. Yeah. So anyway, America.
Your dad did.
So as the news spreads that this had happened, they learned that the Native Americans have moved into a brick workhouse for safety, like in Lancaster, right on it's basically near the county jail on King and Prince Street down there. It had just been constructed, so it was like a brand new building. So they are hiding there. So after several days, the Paxton boys learn that there are 13 or 14 Conestoga Indians living there and hiding. So they decide they're going to go to Lancaster and finish the job. So on December 27th, between 50 and 100 men all head south to Lancaster. They hit the Queen Street at 2 p.m. They dismount, they hop in, and I mean, it says they broke down the workhouse and they pursued the fleeing Indians into the yard. They slaughtered every single one of them. Parents were hacked to death in front of their children. Others were murdered with musket fire at point blank range. The Paxton boys cut the hands and feet from several Indians, and everyone was scalped.
It's a
Okay,
bit excessive.
so
It's a little excessive. Yeah.
we're taking your feet in your hands, even though you're dead.
Yep.
That
Yeah, just to mutilate them, because again, Native American religion, they were doing it on purpose just to desecrate the bodies.
By the way, we believe in a God that believes in love thy neighbor.
Whoa.
Mm.
Unless
Unless
Wait
you're
a
a
minute.
slightly different pigment.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
right? Yeah.
You got different customs.
So if you want to actually see like a graphic novel of this, it's called Ghost River. It's actually like no, maybe it's not. What's it called? What's it called? Ghost River. There's a brand new graphic novel that has been created to depict the entire Conestoga massacre from the Native American viewpoint, which is actually pretty cool. But so after they have done all this heinous stuff in the middle of the day in Lancaster, by the way, So 12 minutes after this has happened, they emerge from the workhouse covered in blood. They hop on their horses. They boldly ride around the courthouse, shouting, shooting their guns all over the place, and then they turn on their horses and head home.
Oh, very nice.
So you think that's happening like out in Deadwood? No, it happened here in Pennsylvania.
So, guys, who wants tacos?
So
Not in Pennsylvania in 1763.
So I found your book. It is indeed called Ghost. It's called Ghost River: The
Yeah.
Fall and Rise of the Conestoga.
There you go. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Very
I mean, if you're
nice.
interested, it's pretty harrowing. But if you're wondering, there was no justice for this because number one, they're Native American. Who cares? That was an opinion of the time period, unfortunately. Now, the Pennsylvania government did offer a $600 reward for the capture of anyone involved, which is a lot of money in that time period. But no attackers were ever identified, and no one was ever brought to justice. So the entire Susquehannock/Conestoga tribe, the entire Confederation, was murdered. So before the 1800s, they were all gone. And so that's kind of one thing that I want to mention as we're talking about your area here. That is going to hold a lot of negative energy, especially considering they worshipped the Bigfoot. I'm telling you what. Bigfoot maybe Bigfoot's killing them because he thinks they hurt the Susquehannock. I don't know. We got some theories going.
I may
He's gaining
present.
more ground.
I may present that very differently to them. But yeah, by the way, there be an 8-foot ape man inspired by Native Americans that are taking your family members,
Scalping them for his own.
Dun dun dun.
Oh yo.
If someone told me we had a Bigfoot, I'm gonna be very mad.
I want a Bigfoot.
What if we just discovered a foot?
Let's just go hunting. Not hunting. I mean, like looking for. I don't want to kill a Bigfoot, PJ. So he's just gonna be a look like, what? No.
We're gonna get 50 guys.
Or 100.
At the minimum, we take a foot. That's proof.
Get your tomahawks.
The small ones too.
Do you want to hear a first-person account of witnessing this horrible thing happen?
We're already in this. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah. So William
You said it
Henry
gets
from
worse.
Lancaster actually described this word for what he saw happening. He said, I saw a number of people running down the street towards the jail, which enticed me and other lads to follow them. At about 6 or 80 yards from the jail, we met from 25 to 30 men, well mounted on horses and with rifles, tomahawks, and scalping knives, equipped for murder. I ran into the prison yard, and there, oh, what a horrid sight presented itself to my view. Near the back door of the prison lay an old Indian and his woman, particularly well known and esteemed by the people of the town on account of his placid and friendly conduct. His name was Will Sock. Across him and his native woman lay 2 children, about the age of 3 years, whose heads were split with the tomahawk and their scalps all taken off. Towards the middle of the jail yard, along the west side of the wall, lay a stout Indian, whom I particularly noticed to have been shot in the breast. His legs were chopped with a tomahawk, his hands cut off, and finally a rifle ball discharged in his mouth, so that his head was blown to atoms, and the brains were splashed against, and yet hanging to the wall for 3 or 4 feet around. This man's hands and feet had also been chopped off with a tomahawk. In this manner lay the whole of them, men, women, and children, spread about the prison yard, shot, scalped, hacked, and cut to pieces.
So if you saw an angry mob and was like, I'm gonna follow that.
What's going on over there?
Let's see what this is all about.
Oh my god. I've made a terrible
I
mistake.
regret this choice.
Not
this is
my
gonna-
best decision ever.
This is gonna ruin afternoon tea.
Oh, Thanksgiving this year.
It's really cost some people an arm and a leg.
Really?
Oh,
Wow. You had to be
It was
PJ.
right there.
It was right there.
I'm gonna take it.
someone had to do it.
And now it's over there.
It's in their court. So again, that's just to the south. And right above you guys is the Penn Creek Massacre, which PJ is going to take over. So that's my next folder of information. Not as harrowing and disgusting as the Susquehannock, but still a massacre nonetheless.
So it's not as worse. It's just worse.
Yeah, not as so we already got worse. Now it's just like we're gonna dial
We're
back.
coming back
bit.
a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna come back.
We're
in.
coming back. It's like we're not 9/11. We're not at the Twin Towers. We're at like the field in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, this is Shanksville.
Jesus.
Yep,
It's still bad. It's just not as worse.
I guess. Yeah.
So October 16th, 1755, there was a raid by the Lenni Lenape on a settlement along Penns Creek. And so there were 26 settlers living there. And of those 26, 14 were killed and 11 were taken captive by the Lenni Lenape. So one man was wounded and he managed to escape. 3 of the preteen girls who were taken captive regained their freedom years after slavery, and their stories have been popularized in several young adult novels and a film. Which I would.
I Am Regina is one.
I Am Regina.
I've taught that before. It's good. And actually, fun fact: a lot of girls who were taken, of females, they wanted to stay with the Native Americans because they were treated more like equal.
We've had that pop up a couple times now in our stories.
Regina did not have a good time, though. Her story is pretty sad. But anyway, moving on.
So anyways, the Lenape had been angered by the European settlers years prior for encroaching on their land, and they lost their traditional lands in the Lehigh Valley area to the government and all that through the walking purchase and several other fraudulent deals that they've made. So 1 year before the Penns Creek Massacre, the Iroquois had sold much of the Susquehanna Valley to the governments of Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and without even consulting the Lenni Lenape at all. So as a direct result of this, the Penns Creek Massacre happened and other raids after that, to the point where Ben Franklin told the Pennsylvania people that Quaker pacifism was not cutting it. And and everyone needs to arm up and protect themselves.
We cannot have peace with these people.
So kill them all.
We need
All
more
get your
area.
guns.
Just want to have peace with us.
America.
Oh, Ben Franklin.
He was
You
something,
gotta
though.
fight to fly.
I need more places for my harem of women.
And my
World's
syphilis.
worst troll.
So the massacre itself. Before dawn on October 16th, a group of 8 Lenape warriors attacked the settlement in Penns Creek. The warriors' names were Ketch Kinney Perlin, Joseph Compass and young Joseph Compass, young Thomas Hickman, Kalasque, Sauchi, and Makinego, and
Kachukwe.
Kachukwe.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
At
got
least
you.
know they're going with that compass.
Yeah, right. How about it? 2 compasses.
Did they lose it from their grandfather? Oh, that's from your podcast. Anyway,
Yeah.
moving on.
Wrong podcast.
Wrong podcast.
After firing several shots, the Lenape first attacked the Swiss farmer Jean-Jacques Leroy before setting his house on fire. His body was later found partially burned with 2 tomahawks still buried in his forehead. A spring that emerges from the ground near the site where his body was discovered is today known as Leroy Spring, and the tiny stream that flows from it into Penns Creek is known as Schweitzer's Run. Leroy's son, also named Jean-Jacques, called Jacob, fought with his father's killers but was overpowered and taken captive, along with his 12-year-old sister Marie and another young girl who was living in the house. When the neighbor of the Leroy's, by the name of Bastian, rode up on horseback, he was shot and scalped. 2 of the Lenape then traveled to the Leniniger household. Leninger.
I got you. I'm from here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think you say that word anymore.
Approximately half mile away. There they demanded rum, but none.
Like again, these are the devious drunken ones.
Yeah.
We want booze.
Give us your alcohol. None was in the
That's
house,
not
so
right.
they were given tobacco instead.
All right.
All right. After they smoked a pipe, they
That's right.
stated that they were Allegheny Indians and your enemies. You all must die. And they shot Sebastian Leninger and tomahawked his 20-year-old son before taking his daughters, 12-year-old Barbara and 9-year-old Regina, captive. Mrs. Leninger another son were away at a mill and thus were spared. Several of the Lenape took the prisoners, as well as horses and provisions that they had plundered, from the Leroy's and Leninger households into the forest, where they were joined by the rest of the Lenape warriors, who brought with them 6 scalps and stated that they had a good hunt today. Later, some of
Good job, guys. We can't eat it, but look what I found.
Oh,
Have fun.
that's a dark one.
Later, some of the Lenape went back into the settlement and resumed killing, returning to in the evening with 9 more scalps and 5 more prisoners.
This reminds me of Inglorious Bastards. You got to get me X amount of Nazi scalps.
100 Nancy scalps.
So, of the 14 settlers murdered at Penns Creek, 13 were men and elderly women, and 1 was a 2-week-old infant. 1 unidentified
Oh.
man was wounded but escaped and made his way to a nearby settlement to report what had happened.
And so, if you want to, you can read I Am Regina, and it tells it firsthand because after I think it was a couple of years, she was taken. They kept the children because they could train them because their numbers were depleting. So the reason why they would, spare children usually was because they would kind of bring them into their fold and train them in Native American ways, and then they would have more numbers. And so Regina actually learns the language, and she forgets how to speak Dutch at the time period. She didn't really speak much English. But when they brought all of these captives back years later, her mom is looking for her daughter because she has heard that there's a possibility that some of these, captives that are coming back might be from that initial raid. And her mom is walking through and she can't even tell that it's Regina because she looks so different because of her time. Her hair was, cut short and everything. And it was actually because of a Dutch song that she recognized her daughter. So, I mean, it's a really good story and it's told, from Regina's point of view based on all the, firsthand diary accounts they have. But it's a good novel. And it shows both viewpoints because you see her.
Go ahead.
So if you want to read a really good version of the story of what Regina went through, the novel's called I Am Regina. And so what they do is they take all these firsthand accounts, her diary, journal entries, her mom's entries, and other captives, and they actually put all together into a first person format through Regina's eyes. So she actually witnesses her father and her brother being massacred in front of her and then being dragged away through the forest, and how she stays there for a couple of years. She learns the language and everything. Like it's crazy. So when they finally bring all the captives back, again, her mom had been spared because, as PJ said, she was at the mill that day. So her mom is brought in front of all these captives and told, one of these people might be your family because we think they came from that initial capture and raid. And so she couldn't even identify her daughter because her hair had been chopped. She looked so different. And at that point, Regina, who was a child, had forgotten how to speak Dutch. She was only speaking the Native American language that of the tribe she had been taken into. So what actually made her mom recognize that it was her was an old Dutch, I want to say it was a lullaby, but it's a song that she knew, or maybe it was a prayer, but it was like a song-based prayer. And that's what made her recognize that was her mother. And so they are reunited. Regina didn't have the best life afterward because she had obviously had some PTSD from what she had gone through. But it's a good firsthand account to see like both sides of massacres because, we can point fingers all day and say this is your fault. And honestly, what happened to the Conestoga, not okay. Like that massacre is not okay. But when you have a firsthand account of like blood splatter, we got an issue. But like there was a reason for animosities because of all these like mini raids and tomahawking and smoking a pipe, then going, you know what, I'm gonna kill you anyway. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like
Just a slight
that was a bit of
tomahawk here and there.
be a little upset. So again, that's just to the north of the area we're talking about. And of course, you have the Conestoga down south. You have all the massacre across all that area too. So like I said, I think what's happening and maybe what's feeding into this missing persons situation you have is just the amount of negativity is really like kind of sucked into this ground. And it's just allowing for some really bad juju in the area. Because I then decided to do some research on hauntings in your area and like ghosts that are actually seen. It's specifically at Shark Mountain. I did not find any Bigfoot stories. I'm sorry, Billy. I was hoping. You know me, like I'm a Bigfoot person. But I'm sure he's out there. Or she. Bigfoot could be a girl.
Maybe the Jersey Devil expanded his territory.
That's right.
Please no. But I will take the Alpha Twitch for 500. Alpha Twitch is okay, just 'cause it's cute.
What about the Squanch?
The Squanch.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Squanch.
I don't know. So I have a couple different articles I want to share with like different ghost stories and everything. So this one's called History, Spirits, Hauntings, Horror, Live in Schuylkill County Legend. It's by Ron Devlin. It comes out of the Republican and Herald in Pottsville. So the article is just from actually this year, October 28th, 2023. It says on Palm Sunday, April 25th, 1925, 2 hikers in search of a rare flowering plant came across the body of a young woman somewhere between Heckershiresville and Gordon. The hikers, a married couple who had just left a church service, were horrified at the sight of the mutilated corpse. An autopsy found that the woman was in her early 20s and had been dead for about 10 days. Newspaper accounts in the Shamokin Dispatch and the Mount Carmel item suggested she had been killed at another location and brought to Broad Mountain in an effort to conceal the crime. Police investigated but never found the killer or killers. Her death remains on the list of unsolved murders in Schuylkill County. Nearly a century later, people say her restless spirit roams the wilds of Broad Mountain in search of justice. So that's right in that area where you already had other people have disappeared. She was murdered there, and now her ghost roams. And then Zerby
I
also.
actually have notes done on the Gordon Mountain Ghost, but I just never did the episode.
Oh, you should. Yeah, it's really cool. But in terms of Sharp Mountain specifically, Zerby wrote of a double haunting at the pinnacle at Sharp Mountain. A Native American maiden whose name was Wanomami, her lover and she actually plunged to their deaths on the mountainside after learning her father would not allow them to marry, according to legend. So you also have lovers pact suicide together along with the broadside. So you got all that going on down there.
I didn't know that one.
Yes, there you go. A lot of these lovers, legends, people killing each other and themselves.
Daddy doesn't approve. Let's die.
Like, honey, I love you, but
Listen,
Hear me out. Let's jump.
I have a great idea. I told PJ that if he passes away young, like, early, I'll go back. If I die first, he is not allowed to marry anybody after me because he's not going to do any better than this right here. And if he does try to marry somebody, I will haunt him for the rest of his life. But if he passes, go ahead.
Here's the problem, though. That might backfire because he might miss you enough where he will marry somebody else just so you'll haunt him so he can feel your presence.
oh,
It's like almost like Annabelle Lee. So I told him that if he dies, I will take it upon myself to marry some rich old dude so our kids will have college paid for. So he doesn't have to worry. I'll marry someone just to help out our children, but I'll marry someone rich this time.
Come here, Mr. Millionaire.
Do it for the kids, yeah. He didn't say yes to that. But anyway, in that area too for Pottsville, you had the Wiggins Patch Massacre. This was particularly violent because of the anthracite coal stuff. So this is going to go into the immigrant Irish miners that were working. So the immigrant Irish miners clamored for better working and living conditions. They sought to form a union, but were met with resistance. So then violence took pretty quick part on December 10th in 1875 when Charlie O'Donnell and his pregnant sister, Ellen O'Donnell McAllister, were murdered in cold blood at a boarding house in Wiggins Patch. The case was never solved, but it was said the killers were in search of Molly Maguires when they entered Margaret Granny O'Donnell's house in the shadow of St. Nicholas Breaker near Mahanoy City. The Molly Maguires was an alleged secret organization of Irish Catholic miners who supposedly gunned down Welsh mining bosses. Guilty or not, of course, as I told you before, 20 men were sentenced to death. 10 of them were hanged on the same day, which was in 1877, which they actually call Black Thursday down there. The trials. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just to help you out here, it's not Mahanoy, it's just Manoy.
No, I refuse.
Fair
don't make sense.
Listen, I don't know what you guys are doing down there, but I'm pronouncing it Mahanoy.
Things that should not be said on a podcast because it is. However, good news, I checked.
So wait, you just say Manoy?
Manoy, that's it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all.
Before we went over that Schuylkill County is spelled weirdly. Okay, nobody can pronounce things.
Manoy.
However, good news, I just checked, or we got caught off. That entire recording did save. So
thank God.
Nice.
We don't want what happened to us to happen to you.
Oh no!
Thank goodness.
I'm going to bed. Have fun.
But any case, so they do say that the ghosts are still there, and of course, that's putting a gloom over that entire area. Now, of course, I mentioned to you already the murder of the Schumbacher Tavern, so you have that whole thing going on as well. And PJ has some small stories of ghosts. But along the canal of the Schuylkill River, there's actually a Jacob Smith ghost that is said to haunt there as well. So even the canal is haunted. But PG, you have like a couple of side stories.
Yeah, I have a couple of
Basically,
things,
little Reddits, if you will.
Ooh, Reddits.
Yeah, pretty much. But they're like little
Yeah,
comments,
they're like little articles here and there, things like
Little
that.
snippets.
little
So
snippets. Yeah.
Nativity BVM High School has two different stories. So the first one is that when each of the Kennedys died, there was a vision of a woman with no eyes crying blood in the first row of pews in the chapel.
I heard about that.
That's crazy. That's wild.
Heard about that.
So the other story is that during the 1970s, a visiting priest went up to the third floor library, and after a fruitless search through the stacks, he was assisted by a nun who found what he needed. When he came back down, he remarked to the principal about the helpful nun in the library, and the principal said that there was no nun in the library at all. In fact, that the librarian had died recently. When shown a picture in the yearbook, the visiting priest identified the nun as the person who helped him.
Oh boy.
Ooh.
And then it says that
Nice.
4 other people can vouch for this story too.
It's a really
Oh,
Catholic
wow.
area because the Irish immigrants.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying to think of like the first one. She was apparently missing. God, she was missing somebody. But there was a connection to JFK because of the Catholicism, because JFK was a Catholic.
yeah.
Mm.
But she was like someone that she knew passed away or was murdered, but she never accepted it.
Oh. I
forgot-
couldn't accept the death of Kennedy either myself, just saying. He's a good guy.
Hey, listen, the dude smoked cigars. That's about it. I mean,
Well, I'm told that his brother Robert Kennedy should have been president. The fact that he was assassinated just breaks my heart because he was such a good guy.
hey,
So I have here a story from Yangling Mansion.
Isn't
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that the oldest brewing company in America? Yingling?
Yeah.
It's the longest constantly running.
Yes,
Okay.
that's it.
They hold that because during Prohibition, they made ice cream,
Oh, that's smart.
which got
We
smuggled.
brought it back a few years ago.
Which somehow, when who was that? The brightest prime minister during World War II, Churchill. When he came to America, he somehow acquired a prescription that got him Yingling grade alcohol
I love it.
and some whiskey that was from somewhere in America. But yeah,
Of course.
Yeah, there's a Yingling brewery in Florida, and we have to ship our water down to them because it doesn't taste right if
Mhm.
they use their water.
yeah, because
Yeah, they had a fire a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Yeah, it caught on fire, and then they opened up a new one. It's in the Tampa area.
Interesting.
I know.
So, the Yingling Mansion, built in 1913 on the Montoga Street by Frank Yingling. The house raised 3 generations of the Yingling family. Since 1978, it's been the home of Schuylkill County Council for the Arts and Art and Ethnic Center. It's said that the 3rd floor of the former maids' quarters housed the spirits of one of the old Irish domestics and a playful child. Since no deaths or traumatic events were known to have taken place there, it's believed that when the pair died, they returned to the place that they considered home. The main house also has stories of manifestations on its stairways, and the carriage house has reports of a large brown orb on it and the immediate area. The activity has been documented in Charles Adams III Coal Country Ghosts.
I would totally haunt a mansion, the England mansion.
I mean,
if I get booze, I would be there.
Honestly,
They host punk shows now. I wonder how they go.
hey, I'm a spirit with 3 spirits.
I'm here for the party forever.
Booze for booze.
So, yeah, I have several others here. I'm not sure if we want to do all of them, but next up, this one's pretty cool. The Tamaqua Train Depot.
Yes.
So,
They know these places.
So, built in 1873 to replace a burned out station, the depot served the Philadelphia and Reading railroad stop up until 1961. After sitting abandoned for 2 decades, preservationists have the building up and running again. The spooks enjoy their new company as well. In 1878, the station was an overnight warehouse for the bodies of 6 hanged Molly Maguires, including their leader, Black Jack Kehoe, before they were transported home for burial. They were packed in ice and stored in the waiting room. It's said that they never left. There are all kinds of poltergeist activities in the depot. Electrical devices malfunction, disembodied voices are heard, there are cold spots, weird lights, photographs of orbs. Psychics and ghost hunters have found spirit activity to be rampant, but haven't put a finger on just who the spirits belong to. They do have one bit of chilling evidence. In response to a psychic's questioning, one spectral voice was caught on tape asking, "Can you help me?"
Could you imagine? Oh.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm out.
Nope. Sorry, buddy. Can't help you.
You guys have your own cool like nursing home asylum down there too. You know, like us, we love talking about asylums on our podcast. But it's called the Rest Haven Nursing Home. That's near Penn State Schuylkill in North Manheim. So originally it was originally an almshouse, which is where you would send all your infirm, your poor, your elderly, anybody that society deemed like a reject, you were kicked over there. So it was haunted like from the get-go. By like 1911, people were seeing things. So one thing they saw was an image of a young girl with flowing blonde hair seen running through the long corridors at the home, and the sounds of laughter and music being heard coming from the entertainment hall, which was located in the 1912 building. There's also a mischievous imp-like creature seen on the grounds that they've dubbed the Devil Boy. And woman once reportedly observing the misty outline of a man's face pressed against the window, but when she went outside to see who was there was no one there, but there were no footprints even beneath the window, which kind of sounds like that whole like Blue Boy story, if you think about it. You know, that urban legend of the Blue Boy.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, a nurse also saw a man in a top hat wearing a long dark coat, and he was walking past the foot of a bed of a woman there. They also smell strong lilac scents throughout the building, even during the winter months. There's also various cold spots that are felt by both workers and visitors. And over at Adamsdale, lots of kids have drowned in Miller's Pond. And though there have been no ghosts seen in the area, people say that it's been haunted by the Rubens Peel homestead over there. So again, while Pottsville doesn't have too much that we can point to, except for an initial massacre way back when they first were settling, everything around it is haunted or like murdered or massacred. And so like I just hope that my research will then feed into the research you've done on the missing people, because I just feel like it's gonna maybe we'll make even more questions for you at this point. Maybe not so many answers, but we really focus on the spiritual. And I don't know, like I would be afraid to be walking alone in those woods, daytime or nighttime. I'd be calling for Bigfoot to come help me.
Here, Bigfoot.
Please help me.
Now, in another episode, are you guys going to be talking about the Blazer, the Chevy Blazer in the 1984?
I have it in my notes for this one, actually.
For this one, yeah, that's a crazy story too. I'll leave that to you then, but.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure how long our episode would go, and it's already been like almost at this point probably 2 hours. Because I told you
it goes how long it goes.
Because we have to go to bed too. But I told you this one might be like a more than one episode because you have so many missing people to discuss too. And aren't you going to interview some people as well?
Yeah, that's what our next. That's we're figuring out the schedule right now when we're going to do that.
Isn't that cool? They're gonna that's cool.
Yeah, we're bringing it on. There's about 4, I believe, at least 4 families that we're bringing it on, and we're doing a group call, kind of like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And interview them, ask them some questions, ask them their ideas, and just kind of just let them speak on their behalf, because there's some. I think the oldest one, I should say oldest, the longest missing person report from them is from 2014. It goes from 2014 to like 2020.
Yeah.
And it was just interesting.
87
people are missing, but all kind of near the same area, all in different circumstances too.
Yeah. And like the logic side of me is just like mine shafts, things like that, hiking accidents.
That was my thought.
Yeah. But then with us and our brand of haunted, spooky things, the when I put that lens on and try to look at it through that lens, I immediately think of the Pukwudgie, actually, and how like there are certain forests and woods, and even like in Japan, there's the suicide forest that you guys did an episode on, where like there's such a bad energy that you might find yourself doing things that you wouldn't in your normal right mind do, just because of whatever the heck is in that forest.
Yeah, and to go back to the whole like Skinwalker Ranch, the Uinta Basin, everything is funneling down into where Pottsville is. You have all of this terrible stuff around it going down into this basin, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it sucks to say, but to me, there's also the possible idea that is one person kind of behind some of these things.
Could bring Schumbacher in. Yeah.
Like, is this a convenient that all of a sudden, because you got to think, these, as we just explored right now, the past, as you said, almost 2 hours, it's not like these strip mines in these areas just arrived out of nowhere. They've been here for so long, and now all of a sudden these disappearances and these people have been going missing and just mysteriously, like, especially this one guy who was on a phone call where something was happening.
Yeah.
There's no trace of him.
How do you all come across this story? Because no, we haven't heard anything about this.
I was scrolling through Facebook one day and I saw a friend of mine shared this, shared a post from a year ago of this page. Give me 1 second. I'll pull.
Is it the path with all the X's on it?
Yeah, it's
yeah.
The page is it's one of the missing people, finding Jesse Farber.
Yeah, I saw that post.
And then I was curious. So I messaged the page. I was like, hey, like, this is me. I kind of have a podcast. We're a local podcast. I'm curious about this. And then they got me in contact with like these different families who also, some of those exes, parents, siblings, stuff like that. And I'm like, if I have a growing audience, we have people here. Let's make a story about this. Let's get your stories out there so other people can
hear it and look. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you never know what happens these days.
Yeah.
And again, like I like to look at the ghostly side of this. If we talk about Hawk Mountain, just on the other side of your mountain range, that's where Matthias Schumbacher was, our first serial killer. But we know that at least 11 travelers disappeared there. People saw him scrubbing blood off his barn's walls. They actually saw him chasing people off his property with an axe. They heard moans and screams in his tavern. But the biggest thing is, when they asked Schumbacher what happened, he said he was driven to madness on his deathbed. He claimed this. They've been driven to madness and to murder by a voice whispering in his ear to do it. So what if there is some kind of like demonic entity out there that has taken control of someone else now on Sharp Mountain, and they're doing the same thing? I'm just positing a new idea.
Where they're just hearing voices or someone's taken over them, and they're just, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw, but it was a month and a half ago where 2 young teenagers were found dead.
Yep.
And they actually found somebody who did it. Like, what? You never know.
Yeah.
It's Amityville horror vibes.
Especially with this area. Not like it's a rich area. It's a poor area where you don't have security. You don't have cameras everywhere. You have mountains. It's easy.
It's so wooded. It's easy to grab somebody, and it's easy to hide somewhere. And if you're hiding in an abandoned mine shaft, no one's going to find you.
Yeah.
Especially if this is actually an act of somebody being just a sick individual, and you got away with it for so many years. I mean, look at the Zodiac killer who never actually identified his real identity. And what if this is somebody who's just been dumping people's bodies along this trail for decades, and it's just now coming to light, or thanks to social media, it's just now become a more popular subject for people to actually say, hey, look at me, pay attention to this is a problem.
Yeah. It's a great place to hide bodies, because you would assume that any manner of animals out there will just pick the bones clean.
Yeah, there's coyotes, there's wolves. I mean, the phone Bigfoot. Bigfoot, just putting it out there.
He likes
it's one-
shrubbery.
Yeah, it's the only phone call that we have on record. We're talking about pack of coyotes that are apparently out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
I know
interesting.
that Billy has his Blazer story, so I want him to take over and tell a story. But I want to put out a little shout out here for Bigfoot, okay? Because you do have the Schuylkill River there, and according to Liminal, we did a crossover with Liminal Unlimited for their episode on the triangle. Bridgewater Triangle, and in there I did had some research on the basically the Conestoga Indians, but the Minsky Indians, and the belief system for them is that Bigfoot actually walks through water, and that's his conduit to get to his like liminal space, his other world. So you got a river there. I'm just saying, right there, smack dab, it connects right with that line. I'm not saying it's Bigfoot. But if it was going to be Bigfoot, there's a river there where he can be a conduit to leave and come back.
Maybe it's a Doctor Who Torchwood thing. There's a rift in time.
It's the rift in time and space. There it is. It's happier than some serial killer.
I mean, maybe
it's not much of a story that I have.
maybe we're saying it wrong. Maybe it's the Sasquatch River.
We've been saying it wrong all this time.
We can't spell it. We can't pronounce it. It's like Illinois.
God damn it, Pennsylvania. Yeah, I don't have much of a story. Because my thought process of these missing people on this mining mountain was, a coal mine, a coal shaft opened up. And looking for, history of that, I scrolled across. 6 people actually died in 1984. April 30th, 1984, their Chevy Blazer they were driving on a popular dirt road in Llewellyn actually fell 76 feet down a 319-foot mine shaft.
Did they?
The people had to.
Yeah.
Huh?
I thought did they survive? But wow,
no,
yeah,
no, they didn't.
no, that's crazy.
Yeah, they did like a massive rescue, but they had cranes and stuff in, or not cranes, like.
Yeah, there's a crane. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there is a crane.
Because they had to like lower a pipe down because the shaft was too unstable.
Oh my god!
So they like dropped a pipe down to support the walls of the shaft, and then they had to send the rescue people down inside the pipe.
And the first crane actually like fell over in the mud.
Oof.
Should have had a more stable shaft.
Well, that's the problem. Like when you would do all that mining, they were just going for the.
They didn't
care about the grand. They didn't care.
There was no engineering involved.
No. I couldn't imagine just driving along and then bye.
No care for the shaft.
No.
Yeah,
This is not your podcast. You can't make those jokes on here.
Yes, you can.
This is why I can't invite you places.
He was saying them under his breath the whole entire time.
I've been waiting for the opportunity for a shaft.
How long was the shaft? Oh my god.
A sturdy shaft.
Oh god, and I just got like I'm good. I need to go to bed now. I'm gonna have nightmares for all the wrong reasons.
The unsturdy shaft.
No.
She have a big
Bigfoot.
Even Billy's just like, it's supposed to be scary, but darn it.
The Bigfoot shaft.
Oh.
Talk about a hairy situation.
Oh, PJ, you found your new best friend.
I
can't.
Those were the 3 best friends that anyone could have.
Oh my god. Oh boy. Well, that's all the research that we have, just so you know. That's all I got for you. And I didn't even do the research on the Blazer because I didn't know about that till PJ told me. It's just sad.
That's crazy. Like they're just going for a picnic.
Going for a picnic.
Yeah, they were just going to hang out.
So were they like on a road, or were they like just going across like the field?
Everything
it was like
I found
a popular dirt road.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, but still, like it's a road. That's crazy.
Bigfoot roads take me home.
To the hole.
Where the mines.
Oh no.
But yeah, that's also why they don't like you going on the private roads in Centralia, things like
Oh
that.
yeah.
I've
Yeah.
been going on with private roads since I was a boy.
And he's
Nothing bad's ever
fine.
happened to me.
Maybe that's where you picked up the girl from.
We leave.
Oh.
God.
That's a story.
All right,
from-
we're tying all dots together.
Yeah, just think about it though.
Yeah, I don't want to think about her. She was mean. I picked you up. That's enough fun what I need.
See, those are the stories we need to hear.
Yeah.
I'm excited for our crossover.
Maybe another crossover.
It's actually a really good story because, and at one point, none of us had any idea what the other person was going through until it was a conversation. They were like, "Oh my god, this is happening to you too."
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah, it just gets worse.
Yeah, to the point that
Because there's a part of it where you would really be like, "What the fuck?" But I'm gonna save it for an
Good. Yeah.
reaction
Okay.
for if you guys want to do another crossover with
Well,
it.
we do.
Yeah, we would definitely love to
Mhm.
do
Yeah,
that.
we'll figure that out. We'll get together probably this weekend or something because it's 10:30 at night now.
Sure is.
some
But
of
if
us.
that's all we have, we can finish it up here.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's just do our little outro here. As we finish, we want to thank Banana Shanana.
You said you weren't going to call me that.
Amateur. I'd like to thank her and her ghost co-host for joining us tonight. Definitely check them out on Spotify as they are definitely more prepared than we typically are for episodes.
We're on every podcast.
Yeah, we're available wherever you get podcasts or YouTube.
Yep.
Absolutely. We will be, as we were just speaking about, a few minutes ago, we'll be interviewing family members of those who went missing along these mountains, get their stories. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, follow us on our socials, as well as the Wellhouse Exorcism.
And you'll find us on Games Overboard because we're a subsidiary of our major podcast.
Very good point. Yeah, look up Games Overboard. And until our next episode, be sure to full on fucking send it.
Full
Fucking send it.
Giraffes. Tell me to yell it.